I'm Goldie Metcalf,
I'm Charlie Naughton.
and this is Midnight in Baghdad, episode 45. Fantastic show lined up. We have people attending their own funeral tonight, would you believe? We have a kind of a caution for people to be aware of TripAdvisor, I think. Some crazy stuff happened in the news. We have unusual football results coming up later on. Recycling condoms. What could that be all about, Charlie? And finally, we're going to wrap it up with an unusual but not surprising, not an unusual, but I suppose an unfortunate case of mistaken identity. But again, but not a surprising one.
No.
Given recent times, and of course, we're going to do our resident agony aunt, Charlie. Welcome to the show.
It's great to be back, Goldie. It's been a month, has it?
It's been a month. We said we'd commit to one show a month, so here we are fulfilling that commitment for you guys listening at home.
Only commitment you've ever held.
Well, listen. Tell me, have you heard about this man who attended his own funeral recently?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay,
I
well,
attended it as a guest.
essentially, yeah, he did, and that's it's incredible the stuff you dig up on this show. But it's on your screen at home, folks, if you're watching on Facebook or Twitch or whatever. But a man arrived at his birthday party to find that his boyfriend has thrown a surprise funeral for him. So basically, initially I'm thinking of. Initially I'm thinking this is a bit weird, but with the coronavirus and that, you couldn't seriously be gathering like that. But it happened, in fairness, 3 years ago in 2017. But he's recounting this weird and wonderful time his partner celebrated his birthday by gathering all their friends together for a surprise funeral, and pretend that he was dead. So, they basically decorated the apartment. They put up photographs of him. They had candles, and they had all these kind of chairs lined in a row and a coffin at the top.
Was the other guy in on this as well?
No, only the boyfriend was in on it, and obviously all the
Right.
people going to the party. The person whose birthday it
Okay.
was the only one that didn't know, to put it simply. But he made a coffin out of an ironing board.
Birthday, funeral.
Yeah, he basically made a coffin out of an ironing board and some pillows, and then put a sheet over it and flowers on top. So the pictures you can see here look like an actual coffin. Like, it's phenomenal. But when he arrived to the party, normally when you have a surprise party, people will go, "Surprise!" Nobody said a word. They just ignored him and pretended they couldn't see him. So they all acted for the whole party, they acted like he was dead, and like literally just talked about him and told stories about him, whatever. But he wasn't allowed to engage with them. So he kind of just sat through it. After about 15 minutes or something, I think he says somewhere here, I'm just scrolling through it. He just kind of sat there and watched. He said there was no point in him trying to get attention or anything like that at all.
So anytime he tried to speak to someone, they ignored him, did they?
Yeah. They just think of the Sense, I suppose, that movie where he's talking but nobody's actually listening to him, and they have you could write. They have a book here, like a little shrine, I suppose, and please take a card and share a memory of Eli W. McCann. And there's this they're putting all little messages and memories and stuff in it. It's I suppose it's a beautiful birthday gift in a way, isn't it?
It's very strange. He wasn't dying of HIV or anything, no.
No, this is just a birthday, and it was just I thought it would be a funny thing to do.
Right.
But I think
And
it.
did the guy find it funny?
Oh, he did. He thought
Just
he
kinda-
actually said it was actually really nice. But you can imagine it would be, because you'd love to know what people think about you when you die and what they say about you in the church and stuff like that, wouldn't you? But obviously,
Yeah.
depending on your fate, I suppose. But let's take it for granted that you never get to hear what's said. So you're kind of getting an opportunity to see that, and it's obviously going to be lovely, nice things. People don't go to funerals and say bad shit about you, generally. So why wouldn't that be a good thing to? I think that would fascinate you,
Yeah.
because you would love that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. It's a really nice gesture. I think it would be brilliant if he hadn't actually attended, if he had maybe watched it on live cam, because the way when someone is there, you are going to say certain things that you wouldn't have said if they weren't there.
Do you think so? Yeah. Well, I suppose
Yeah.
it's a simulation, isn't it? It's not going to be fully accurate because, yeah, you're right. But at the same time,
But it's a brilliant idea.
you're still going to hear positives, I guess. Do you know what I mean? And that's going to make you
Yeah.
as a person feel good. Do you remember we kind of did that before?
I was just thinking that, yeah. With Dire Straits.
Yeah, yeah. There's a video of that knocking around somewhere where basically
Yeah.
we're in a coffin and we kind of sit over each other and tell each other what we think or whatever,
What
you
we
know.
would say.
But it isn't.
Yeah.
It's amazing to watch that now because obviously what we would have said probably 10, 15 years ago, whatever it was, would be a lot different to what
Mm.
we'd say now, you know. But
Yeah. I'd love if we actually had that video rather than the music video we made of it. You know, if you could actually hear what we
oh, I
said
think we do.
rather
I
than.
think it's knocking around in the archives
Yeah.
somewhere. Yeah, I think we do. We'll fish down for it maybe.
I suppose everyone, all the people listening in would have. We've all fantasized about our own funeral, haven't we? And that's the problem with teenagers, don't they? They wonder about what we said on Facebook about me.
Yeah.
That's why they kind of commit suicide. But I love that idea of doing that as a surprise for someone. It's absolute genius. It really is.
It is, and it's.
Um,
I suppose it probably kind of resurfaced now because it's a way to actually probably get away with having a party. Do you know what I mean? Like if you can imagine,
how many people are you allowed up to have at a funeral, though?
I think it's up to 25 people. So you can imagine,
Okay.
yeah. So you can imagine if you have your birthday as if themed as a funeral, well then you can actually still have a birthday party. But this was actually all pre-COVID. But I think it's worth looking at. But it's a fantastic idea.
Absolutely brilliant.
Attending your
Remember
own
on
funeral.
The last show, we were talking about a mayor in South America, one of the South
Yes.
American states, who pretended he was dead and got into.
I do.
So I know that was very impromptu, but I'm fascinated by that idea. I, as you know, want a funeral clown when I die. And
Yeah.
I don't know if they're still around. They definitely were around about 10 years ago, and that would be the strangest job, wouldn't it?
It would.
you're going
It
to-
would. You're going to a funeral to try to cheer people up, but I'd love that shit
Yeah.
because do you know the way you like when you do you know when you're in a place and you want to say something inappropriate just for the crack. Do you know what I mean? But you don't know whether you should or not. Like if you're at a funeral, you might crack a joke to somebody, or do you know, and it's kind of forbidden, so it's kind of exciting and funny. You're actually getting an opportunity to do that openly.
Yeah.
That's crazy and funny that you mentioned that it's a funeral clown because
Go on, yeah.
you mentioned it was a funeral clown because I only looked at a video this week of this clown basically going around to talking people, and apparently he's well known for in America at spring break and all this kind of stuff. And he just basically, like, if you're overweight, he's going to blast you for it. If you've no boobs, he'll blast you for it. If you have big boobs, he'll blast you for it. Like, he just picks on something and goes with it, and it's outrageous stuff. Like,
But you know, that's the thing. Because you're in a costume, or because you're a comedian, you get away with saying this mental shit that if under normal circumstances you can't say, and we all accept it because of the circumstance. Here's someone wearing a clown outfit. They can act weird towards us,
yeah.
and we will take it, isn't it?
But I don't think.
The pictures I saw at a funeral clown, he's posing on top of the coffin, like lying, you know, with one elbow up and head on his elbow, like doing
Yeah.
a sexy pose.
It's
I
not a
love
sexy
that
pose;
shit,
it's a
you know?
clown pose.
Yeah, but he's doing the sexy pose, dressed as a clown.
Yeah, as
It
clowns
makes it
do.
funnier,
Yeah, you
know?
don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could have just said the clown pose, and then we all would have known what you talked about. But you kind of made it sexy, and I don't know whether it needs to be sexy or not.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely an interesting one. It's actually funny as well because I was watching a show last night, Billions, and the new season is back. It's a fantastic bloody show, and there was a wrestler in it, an Irish wrestler. What's her name? Becky Lynch, and she starred in. She did a cameo in it, and she comes in and she baits.
Beth Lynch.
No, it's Rebecca Lynch, Becky Lynch. Yeah, the man Becky Lynch. Welcome Benji, welcome Roman Clown to the show.
What do you mean, the man?
That's that kind of her nickname because she's the champion, the female champion. But she comes into the show anyway, and basically baits the shit out one of the characters in it. But yeah, it's just funny. But what in the show they kind of to talk about de-stressing and what they do in the States and in all this, it's grown throughout Europe now as well. Is things called rage rooms, where you literally to de-stress you go into a room with a fucking hammer and smash shit to pieces, like. And obviously in this show it's represented as like TVs and a house basically, but I'd imagine there's one, if you and me want to do it, we'd be smashing glass bottles and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? But this is what people are using now to de-stress, is basically beating the shit out of. Because I stopped watching the show and I googled it and I was like, this is real and it's happening throughout Europe. There's a place in the UK. Maybe it's something we could look
so
at,
it's
open
like
up.
a business.
It's a business, yes. You have like saunas and you have spas and you have massage parlors and you have,
Paintball, all that stuff,
paintball, or you have It's not. I think it's more holistic though. Do you know what I mean? I'm comparing it to escape rooms and paintball, and that's kind of
Well-being or
more.
whatever,
That's
yeah.
more fun than anything else. But the well-being is more what it is. And you go
So
in
is
it.
this Axel? Does he bring the whole company to it, or is it just you see one character doing it privately?
One, you see one
Or is it a
character doing it.
corporate event?
No, it's not a corporate event. One of the characters is needs an outlet to distress. A bit like someone who's using a show like this to distress. Um, and this is what you do. So would you go to a rage room, or has anyone here heard about rage rooms? Like has your week ever been so bad that you would love nothing more at 5 o'clock on a Friday to head down to the town and go into a room with a hammer and smash the shit out of stuff? Is your weeks ever that bad?
It's very tempting, isn't it? And once you put the idea in my head, now I want to do it. But I probably wouldn't have seen it as an outlet before. You feel like a vandal.
Yeah.
But again, this is the thing. When you go and you pay to do it, then presumably you're paying to do it, and it's in a formalized setting. Suddenly it's okay. Whereas if you did it on the side of the road, even if you're just breaking glass that belongs to you, you'll feel like you're committing some kind of wrong.
Well, you are. You're technically
Kind of
still
social
committing a
wrong.
crime, because even to damage your own property is a crime. Do you know what I mean? So you technically are. So, but you can do it in the confines of this rage room, and it's perfectly legit. And for me, that kind of takes the point of it away a little bit. Like if I was to go there, I'd be kind of more inclined to do it, as you say. Oh, we went on a stag and we went to a rage room. That's where I see kind of maybe a little bit of value in it. It's something to be entertained, not something to actually be your method of de-stressing. Do you know what I mean? Like
Why? Because it's too controlled.
it's too controlled. It's too planned. Do you know what I mean? Like it's fake. You know what I mean? You can't go in there and just summon all this rage. I don't think I have enough in it me to be able to summon it to enjoy doing that.
I actually think.
And people might find that hard to believe, but I really don't. Do you know?
It has to come unexpected. Out of the
It
blue.
does. It does.
Like you can't have a shit day at 1 o'clock and say, right, at 5 o'clock I'm going to go to the rage room. It doesn't work like that.
No, because you'd become to depend on it too.
Yeah, but that mightn't be a bad thing. We all have our, what you call it, your safety blanket or whatever that just helps you get through. Not necessarily.
Yeah, but I think you have to be careful of what
If you
way
accept
that.
the fakeness of it.
I think you have to be careful about what that blanket feels like. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I mean that in the sense of if it's to go for a pint at the end of the week, and that's fine, and it's kept to that might be okay. But if it's going in smashing the shit out of fucking glasses and TVs and radios and stuff, that could probably lead to something else. You might just start associating with that kind of violence being okay in your normal everyday life. Then it could creep into it.
Does it stop you damaging someone?
I don't know.
You might have damaged if you didn't get.
It's one of those. It's one of those conundrums, I suppose. And we talked.
Pedophile
Yeah, that's exactly what was in my head.
robot,
The child pedophile robot came into my head. Yeah, it's.
And we'll never get the answer to this, will we?
No, we won't.
We
I,
can't
and
do an experiment and have it control.
no, I think it's something to. It's definitely interesting. I think it's definitely if on a stag, I would definitely do it for the crack. It wouldn't be my first port of call, but you could see it being a little bit fun, but not as a medical practice. Definitely not. Buzz says I normally de-stress by wrapping a tie around my neck in the closet. Buzz, in fairness,
That's what
you've
killed Michael Hutchins, didn't it?
it did, yeah. It's again, you're entitled to do that, and I think I know you mean that in the nicest of ways, as in it's a sexual thing rather than a need to harm yourself. But whatever,
Never
just
said
be
it was a sexual thing.
no, but just in case
presuming
people
it
think
was.
that, I'm just worried. Just be careful with it, Buzz, and always have an emergency word or something that you can cut it with at hand if you need to. Just be careful because accidents do happen.
Presumably Buzz is doing it on his own, Goldie. So an emergency word, like who's he saying the emergency word to?
Well, maybe himself. Maybe he needs to say it to himself. But I know if I'm in the closet with a tie wrapped around my neck, do you know what I mean, hanging for sexual gratification, I need to take a hard look at myself.
My father once, didn't you?
I did. I did. We won't go into that story, but
We won't.
no. But what I'm saying is, if that's what you're doing that makes you de-stress and get you off, well then great, work away, do it. But just be careful. Have some emergency backup plan in case you can't get out or you get into trouble. Pork chop, welcome to the show. Benji, yes,
Do you
it
think,
does sound
Goldie, there are
exhausting.
people who,
Oh, Buzz says
who
his wife acts as a spotter, so that's there you go. It's
is
safe.
spotter the technical word, is it?
It is. Well, yeah, I can see. Yeah, she's making sure she's looking out for him. Do you know what I mean? Same as you would spot
Do you
somebody in a
think,
gym.
There are people who cut off the oxygen to their brain, not for a sexual reason, like they do choke themselves or whatever, for just the high of it. You know the way it's supposed to make you
Yeah.
quite high, and that obviously makes your orgasm more intense. But I think there are people that do it in a non-sexual way just to get high.
Potentially,
Like
like it.
the way you think you sniff glue.
Yeah, we won't go into talking about sniffing about glue, but
Why?
I just think it's just a crazy thing, isn't it? Really, like, to be fair, it's just.
Well, I presume people don't do it anymore. Like,
Oh, it still happens. No, it does. Yeah, it was massive.
Really?
It was massive back in the 90s. But yeah, I don't think we need to go down that road. It's crazy
You tell
stuff.
me teenage kids still do that.
It's
and they
still,
can
of
get,
course.
like,
Yeah, but sure,
proper
what are they
drugs
doing now? The latest thing is these little silver canisters of helium that they're all going around doing. Do you know what I mean? Have you seen this little silver bullets called whippets? There you go, pork chop. Can of compressed air in your mouth, and it gives you a high, but
And
it can
gives
kill
you a
you.
high.
But it can kill you. I think
And it kill you as well.
one lad died there a couple of weeks ago from it. So yeah, they're still doing crazy shit out there. We never learn. We just evolve, and it's this year it's fucking compressed air. Last year, last decade it was glue, or whatever, Windoline, whatever you were using. So it's just mad stuff. But we kind of digress from the subject. I think if you do want to do it in a safe environment, that's perfectly fine. Just be extremely careful with it.
I don't know, goalie. I don't see it working. I don't see it taking off. Like, look, when we went on my stag, you do the usual. You go to strip club. I doubt any of us found.
I'm not
that
confirming or
arousing.
denying presence in a strip club.
Right. Okay. But let's say you go to strip club. No one actually really finds it arousing, I presume. Whereas if you had the exact same thing done to you randomly, unexpectedly,
Yeah,
it's so arousing. But because it's controlled, because it's part of the culture,
it's
and
just
the-
fun rather
taking it
than
off. Yeah.
you're ticking a box
Exactly.
and you're just being a fucking child and having a bit of juvenile crack.
Yeah.
And I
Like,
mean, I don't mean actual juvenile crack. I mean, like, you're having. Do you know what I mean? You're just
Like, that's where
acting
words
like a
come from,
child.
yeah.
You're acting like a child.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of fun. So we need our
You say
release.
the panic room or whatever that room will become the same.
I hope
as
so.
opposed
I
to
hope
an
so.
actual
I hope the rage
feeling
room.
thing.
I hope the rage room.
That's not a rape room.
No, the rage room. I hope it becomes
Rage room.
a fun thing.
Broke up when you said rage.
No, sorry, rage room. I hope that becomes one of those kind of events rather than something that people use to deal with their problems, because I don't think that's healthy.
And it won't work, do you think?
I think it's definitely going to work, but I just hope it doesn't go that way, and I think that's the big danger of it. We talked about.
Sorry, goalie. Just one question: was there a price on that?
I didn't
Is
see.
it a lot of money, or is it right?
Well, you see, this is the
I
thing.
imagine it's cheap enough.
You get what you pay for. You can probably go into a room, pay 10 quid, and go in and smash a couple of bottles around the place. Whereas if you're willing to spend, it's probably like your strip club. If you're willing to spend, €1,000, you can probably break a Samsung TV or something. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
they cost 200 quid. You make a fortune from the fucking thing. So I'd say you can just upgrade to whatever you want to do. And
And is
obviously,
there any in Ireland at the moment, or is this
not
just
that I
in
could see.
America?
Not that I could see.
Okay.
But
So
there's
potential
definitely in the
market there,
UK.
anyone who's listening in?
Oh, it's all over Europe. All
They're
over Europe.
definitely in the UK already, right? Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. But listen, we talked about being careful of TripAdvisor, and the reason we said that is because a US man avoids jail in Thailand over bad resort review. So this fella is actually not even on holiday. He's working over in Thailand, and he stays at a particular resort. He doesn't enjoy his time there. He has an issue, and he puts a bad review on TripAdvisor, and he gets arrested. Like, fucking hell.
I heard about this. Yeah.
It's crazy. So basically, they said that it was defaming the hotel, that it wasn't true, and that there was some argument over him bringing a bottle of wine to the table, his own wine, and they wanted to charge him a corkage fee, and some issue broke out. But he was looking at up to 2 years in prison unless he met a couple of conditions and basically apologised for what he did. And of course, you're going to do the sensible thing there, realistically, aren't you? You're going to do whatever it takes to get out of jail. But there's one part of me there that's like, what, fuck you. Like, hang on a fucking second. Do you know what I mean? Am I willing? Like, how much of a stubborn fucker am I? Do you know what I mean? And am I willing to risk 2 years in prison to say no? This is fucking bullshit. This is wrong. But you're in Indonesia. You're going. You're probably just going to do whatever they fucking ask. But he obviously got off. He basically apologized, and the hotel dropped the charges. All he had to do, he had to apologize and basically put up on his thing that he was basically telling lies and stuff like that. But you know, they're kind of concerned because obviously tourism is at an all-time low with the coronavirus, and Indonesia relies
Yeah.
massively on tourism. So this wasn't helping. It was kind of compounding the issue. But it's a bit much, isn't it, for leaving a
I suppose,
review?
yeah. It seems crazy. I remember when I came across it, like if you say if you make it clear it's your opinion, surely you're okay, are you? Like if you said, for example, I didn't like the steak. I know you're talking about he was charged a corkage fee, so that's a simple yes or no. He was charged a corkage fee, and he didn't like it. So I'm wondering how the hell could they threaten to sue him for defamation? Do you know where I'm coming from? It's not like he said it was unhygienic or the chef spat in my food or anything like that he couldn't prove. If he's simply saying I don't like this, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but this is the thing. You would think that's okay. You're in fucking Thailand. Now he did, I think, obviously.
Actually, I'm looking at it here, goalie. He said they were unfriendly staff.
Yes, I'm trying to find it
here. So yeah, he has crossed the line.
Yeah,
I suppose,
yeah,
there.
he's entitled to do what he
okay,
did, but
yeah.
he kind of he kind of embellished it, I think, a little bit, and you know, because he wanted to make an impact. But it's still not worth 2 fucking years in prison, really, is it?
No, yeah, no, not at all. But you know what? I'd love to see the next reviews for that Seaview Hotel. I'd say they'd be glowing.
No, but yeah, exactly.
Anyone who stays there will be terrified. No one will complain.
But that's the
about
thing.
anything.
But like,
Imagine ringing down and saying, "I'm just wondering, would you mind cleaning the towels?" What? And they'll just go ballistic at anyone. That hotel has it made and sorted now.
I know. Would you be wary now after hearing that story about going to different countries and not taking stuff like that for granted?
Yeah. Well,
I've two questions, I suppose, arising out of that. First of all, you know, is there a situation there that you see yourself actually standing up and saying, "I'm not apologizing. I did nothing wrong," in any way? Can you see that happening for you at all?
Never if there's jail time.
No.
I would just suck it up and humiliate myself. Yeah, definitely. What about you?
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to say here live on air that I'm going to take the high road and be willing to be that person.
To bite you then, yeah.
But I wouldn't be happy with it. Do you know what I mean? I'd make it known. I'd do what they wanted, but I'd make it known that I wasn't fucking happy with it. And that it was a load of fucking bollocks.
Presumably you can't.
Yeah, but you know, there's a way, isn't there?
You know, you're having your cake.
There's a way.
No, they're going to, if they're that crazy in Thailand, they're going to scrutinize all the social media. And if he says anything like later on, you know the way they said that Galileo had to apologize in front of the Inquisition,
Yeah.
saying that the sun revolved around the earth, or something like that. And then as he's walking down after putting his hand on the Bible, he's supposed to have muttered, "and yet it moves," or something like that in Italian.
Brilliant.
It's one of those stories that you don't know, though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't know if that's true or not. Would you have honestly risked it? And
it definitely would have crossed my mind.
Crazy,
I'm not going to lie and say I
people.
definitely would, but it would definitely have crossed my mind. I would have thought about it and thought of saying, fuck this. Buzz or Porkchop says, hard pass on ever going to Thailand, zero appeal. Yeah, it doesn't massively appeal going over to that side of the world. Yeah, I can imagine it'd be interesting, but I see the pictures. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm very good at kind of imagining shit. So, do I really need to go there? No, I've been in my dreams as such, and if your dreams are so real, we've talked about that before. Maybe I was there. I'm talking shit. No.
Is the beach set in Thailand? That film.
It's in that vicinity. Yeah. Would you write a review of the legal system? Buzz, this is going to be my second question, kind of, and thanks for getting us back on track to Charlie. Have you ever made a complaint online, or written a letter or anything like that, a complaint, and what was it for?
I remember I've made one complaint in my life. Will I tell you? It's like.
Well, yeah, if you can.
Okay. Yeah, of course. So I had started my job in a certain area about 16 or 17 years ago. And my job, like yours, would obviously have, ironically, despite this job here, has us in high standing in the community. So I had just started the job, and I was in buying a pair of shoes in Dunn's in that area. And I think I tried on a pair of jeans or trousers or something like that. I went into the changing rooms anyway, and I tried on whatever the clothes is, and then I put them back on the shelf. And as I was walking out, I got stopped by a security guard, and he told me point blank. He said, "I know you've stolen clothes here." That's what
Wow.
he said to me. I know you've stolen clothes.
And how old were you? You were
And I said,
16,
wait.
you said, was it?
No. No, this is 17, 16 years ago. So it's
Okay.
my current job. I'm still in this job. I had literally just started the job maybe a month or whatever.
Okay.
So I would
Okay.
have been 26, 25.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the security guard stops me and says, I know you've stolen the clothes here. You went into the change room. And I said, what do you mean? I tried on clothes and so on. But you know the way when you're caught off guard?
Yeah. You
You're
you
not
almost
thinking
feel
it. So I
guilty.
was like,
You almost feel guilty. Yeah.
I did. And I was thinking, did I steal them? You know what, for one sec. But then I said, well, how am I supposed to have stolen them? Because I didn't have bags or anything. And he said, you've got the clothes on under your clothes. You know
Oh
what I mean?
Jesus.
So if it was a pair of jeans or whatever, he was saying I'd put them on and then I'd put my other clothes on.
Yeah, I get it. We get it. Like, just come on with the story. We get what you're talking about.
Don't be an asshole.
I'm not being an asshole,
Story
but you're
about
literally
fucking-
going through every step. Like, just cut to the chase here. What
All right,
happened?
so then I
Fuck's
so I
sake.
complained. Yeah, I complained.
Yeah, no, don't cut it that short. Give me a little detail. I don't need to know that you put your left leg in, your right leg in, you pulled up the fucking trousers. Do you know what I mean? But like, give me a little bit more meat. Charlie, I apologize. Okay, I apologize. I just want to. I'm really excited. I want to hear it. Okay, okay.
Right. So obviously I denied it, yeah. And the guy said, well, look, will you come into a secluded area and you can show me. that
And
you've
he
got them?"
touched
I
you.
said, I'm not showing you. No, no, he wasn't a priest. But anyway,
Okay.
I refused to do it. And then I started panicking because I was thinking if anyone saw this interchange, like a parent or whatever, my reputation was fucked.
Yeah.
So I sat in the car.
The last thing you want
so
is
he
to
let
see
me out.
yourself getting fucking touched up in the corner by a security guard.
Exactly, without getting money for it.
And can I
So
ask
I-
the ethnicity of the security man?
He was Irish, yeah. Here's the crazy thing, Goldie. So I left
White
the shop
Irish.
without white Irish. Yeah.
Okay.
Gas used to say that.
No, but I'm just trying
Let's
to
say
get a
that.
picture in my head.
I know what you mean. No, I know what you mean. Yeah. 16 years ago, you wouldn't have said white Irish, though. You know what I mean?
No.
You wouldn't have. Yeah. But anyway, I sat in the car and I was kind of shaking, and I said, "Right, fuck this."
Sorry,
In case
sorry.
Anyone did see me?
You didn't show him at all, did you?
No, I refused to.
And what did he just let you go then?
Mhm.
Wow.
And then I sat in the car and I was shaking, and then I realized if
You're
anyone
all shook
did
up.
see it in the community, I was fucked. So I decided I was going to go back in and complain about the security guard.
Mhm.
So I went back in, went up to the main desk, and asked could I speak to the manager. And they said no problem, and they get the manager, and who is the fucking manager?
Oh, you're joking.
The fucking security guard. So he wasn't the security guard at all.
Right.
So I had to complain to the manager about the fucking manager.
Yeah.
So it was absolutely ridiculous. So
So-
I said I want a letter, etc., etc. Now, if this was nowadays, I would have automatically sued. I would have
Okay.
automatically sued them for that. The way I was treated. If I was 36 instead of 26, you know the way you'd know better. And you
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
let this happen. You know you're.
So
right
what happened? What did he do for you in the end?
I got a fucking letter, just in case anything had happened, because I was thinking of my job. Just if a rumor.
So that's it. You were always a goody little two shoes, weren't you? In fairness, like you went as far as it was necessary, I suppose, to protect yourself, but you weren't willing to take advantage of the situation or kind of.
Excuse me, 2 years ago, you had the opportunity to take advantage of the situation, and you're like, no, I'm not into the suing culture. I'm not one of those guys. I'm not going to go for compo, etc., etc. And I was telling you should.
I know, and there's times where you think,
Fucking goody two shoes.
the
yeah,
amount of
but
money
yeah.
you could get for these things, but I don't know. There's a higher
Exactly,
conscience
yeah,
there. There's
yeah.
a higher conscience. Well, fair play to you. You would have got absolutely thousands out of it. Just to go back over the
know.
comments.
Do you think if I rang now, if I got you to ring like Weetabix 20 years later?
Yeah, we could. The statute of limitations is gone, unfortunately, but
Is it?
yeah, it would be. But it's definitely, you would definitely think twice, I think, these days. But maybe we're just saying that. Buzz, would you write a review of the legal system? I think you have an idea of how I feel about that from listening to our shows. Pork chop. Let's all hope dreams aren't real, because I had a dream Biden won the presidency. Surely that's an absolute beautiful dream. And if it was a nightmare, you probably would have said it was a nightmare, not a dream, because that's the best case scenario. Go Biden. A fellow Republican, Buzz. Sorry to hear that, mate. Charlie Norton is done. Pork chop. A fellow non-Biden supporter. Anyways, it's an interesting. We don't really want to get into the presidential debates. Let's all hope that
Definitely
it goes
don't, no.
smoothly. Let's hope Biden wins, and let's hope Trump doesn't try start a civil war. and cheat his way
Well, it
into
looks
staying
like
another term.
Trump might need to cheat his way in, but we won't go there.
Hopefully not, but he's setting it up. He's setting it
Yeah.
up. We will move on. Thank you,
Yes.
Pork Chop. And yes, definitely, but the head was screwed on there.
Did you
Looking
see
for
the
the
new
letter.
Borat film, by the way?
I haven't yet. I have it lined up,
Okay.
but I
All right.
haven't.
All right.
Don,
Very
JCA,
political,
motivational
funny.
speaker, welcome to the show. You're absolutely, we're delighted to have you here. Moving on.
Could have done with you 16 years ago, Don.
Absolutely. But we've an interesting story now. We're kind of going down the whole, it's very hard to avoid the show and not talk about the coronavirus. But we have an unusual story. A German football team lost 37-0 after socially distancing from the opponents. Now, this is a story that came in through you, Charlie.
Yeah. It struck me as funny because when I read the headline, I was just thinking, how can any team, no matter how shit they are, lose 37-0? So, like, I didn't realize it was a coronavirus. I thought there was going to be something funny, like they were disabled or whatever, and through some weird twist of fate in a competition, they had to play against a fully able team. But no, like you say, it was the coronavirus.
It was a coronavirus.
So
and
it
before
was-
we continue on there, Charlie, just Don, JCA, motivational speaker, much love from Stockholm, Sweden. Wow, beautiful country. And much love from here in Dublin. My daughter...
Stockholm isn't a country, God.
Sweden is the country. Stockholm is the city. A beautiful place. My daughter was only over there recently for a couple of weeks and said it was a fantastic country. And still, she basically met a second mother there who she still talks to this day. She talks to this girl from Sweden every day who is her second mother. The topic today is basically world events. There's a couple of coronavirus pieces. We have some mistaken identity coming up and some condom recycling. So it's a mixed bag.
Yeah. Saving money during lockdown.
Exactly. Pork Chop says, if you're going to social distance, you shouldn't be on the field to begin with. No, and that's, I think, the point of the story, Charlie, if you want to continue.
Yeah.
If you're looking at on Facebook or
So,
Twitch, you can see the pictures. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it was a German football team, and they're in the Bundesliga, but I think they're in they're
You heard us
League
right, Pork Chop.
19 or something.
League
Like
19,
that,
yeah.
Right? So yeah, but I'm thinking the size of Germany, they're going to have so many leagues. It could be the equivalent of the FAI Division 1 or maybe Division 2,
Yeah.
They're not like a Saturday team. So anyway, they played and they lost 37-0. They didn't want to play the game because their opponents, the previous match, the opponents had played, one of the players on the opposition had tested positive for the coronavirus. So
Okay.
even though the team they were playing, no one had tested positive. But because
There was a
played
close
football
contact,
previous
essentially.
week- yeah, if you define a footballer as a close contact. The other team got tested for the coronavirus prior to playing this match, and they all got the all clear.
Yeah.
But the other team didn't want to play. So they were told that if they didn't play the match, if they forfeited the match, they'd have to pay out the grand total of the equivalent of €200. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they decided they'd play the match.
They played a
Now,
match,
the
but
thing is
basically
that
just...
They played it, yeah, so they played it. They tipped the ball, and then they just let the other team score. And they only took the ball out of the net and then would pass it again to the other team. And they all stood to the side. So the minimum amount of players you have to have in a soccer team is 7. You have to field 7 at least. So they fielded 7 players, but the 7 players didn't go near the other team.
Okay.
Except to kick the ball to them. But the thing that struck me about this bloody story is if you're that worried about catching the coronavirus, if you've got a team or a squad of 20 players and they all coughed up a tenner, they could have just forfeited the match. Do you know what I mean? Would you pay
I know,
a tenner
but
to
isn't
avoid-
this a similar story to going to prison for leaving a review on TripAdvisor that we talked about at the start of the show? It's the same
You
thing.
think they're making a point?
They're making a point. It's the exact same thing. It's principles. And I suppose €200, and actually when you said it, you said the equivalent to €200 because Buzz is right. Germany does use the euro. I thought it's not a whole lot of money, but maybe it is for that club, or more realistically, maybe they thought, you know what, this is bullshit. Like, did not realise that there's an epidemic on out there, or a pandemic, whatever the difference is. I think pandemic is worse.
They did say that's a lot. The €200 is a lot of money for us.
Yeah,
Surprising.
and it probably is, but I think if you're going to take that stand, you have to just say that anyway. But I think realistically they're saying, you know what, this is bullshit. The league should have made a decision here to cancel the fucking game instead of forcing teams to play. And if we're going to play, we'll play, but we're not going to play ball. Do you know? So
Well, you see, goalie, why the league can't cancel the game? None of the opposition had coronavirus. They played, the opposition had played a match the previous week against a team, and the team they played against, one player
Yeah,
had
no, I
tested
got that.
positive.
I got that. Yeah. But the point is, they shouldn't be
So
playing. They shouldn't be playing football at all. Is what this team
there
is
should
saying.
there should be no. Well, they didn't say that. You're saying that. But is that what you think? There should be no sport being played. Like we've the Six Nations
But
on,
it's
we've horse racing, all
yeah,
that
but
shit. You know.
and it's still spreading it, isn't it? Every sport
I
around the
think
world,
so.
people are you hear about this match is cancelled or this event is cancelled because somebody's tested positive or a team is down players because it's tested positive. Like and it's a balance, isn't it, between your mental health? Because if we didn't have sport and we didn't have anything at all, the people would go crazy. But maybe they're our heroes.
So what
Maybe
do you think? Should we? They're the frontline workers.
but maybe they are. Maybe the footballers and stuff and the sportsmen, maybe that help our sanity through this. Maybe they're the real heroes of this of the whole thing. Do you know? But
What's interesting is my
I think it
daughter's
should be cancelled.
Gaelic is still going ahead. And
Yeah.
she's only 7, and that strikes me as very unusual, very
Yeah,
strange.
the
She's
GAA,
only-
which is the Gaelic Athletic Association, will always,
They totally control the country.
yeah, and they're a professional organisation with amateur status, and they're pushing that to the absolute limits. They're kind of saying, well, if you want this, give us this. It's again not something we don't need to get into. Don says there's many good doctors with integrity that is coming out. Check Dr. Rashid Buttar and Dr. Darrell Wolf. We will have a look at that and the documentary Plandemic. We'll definitely take a look at that, Don. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Pork Chop says take a test before the game. If you test negative, you play. Anyone on the team tests positive, the game is postponed. Got to be smart about it. Yeah, you got to be smart about it. But that's what's happened, really. In effect, isn't it? Buzz says coming out as gay. What does that have to do with the pandemic? And I don't know if I trust the cheek doctor.
I wish they changed the lingo of testing negative and testing positive.
It kind of
Positive sounds to me like a good thing. It's just confusing, isn't it?
I know, yeah. It's it's the admissible and inadmissible again, isn't it? What does it mean? Yeah. Positive is actually negative, and negative is positive. Opposites attract.
You said about the football team just turning up and making a point, and maybe that is what they're doing. I don't know. They obviously didn't say that's the reason, and maybe they couldn't, like you're saying. But I remember seeing a football match on telly once, where the ref gave a penalty, okay, and the guy who was supposedly fouled got up and spoke to the ref, and later on it turns out that he said to the ref, "Actually, I wasn't fouled. Like I tripped. The guy didn't foul me."
Yeah.
Because the ref had called a penalty, he forced the team to take the penalty, right? So the other team, so the team took the penalty. The guy who was supposedly fouled took the penalty, and he deliberately kicked it miles wide. Right?
And then he got a yellow card, did he?
And he got a yellow card.
Yeah. Because it's
how do you know that? Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. Like it's not disrepute. You bring down to disrepute, but it's what's the word you use for sport? It's dissent, basically. It's dissent. Do you know what I mean? And you can't tolerate it.
He could have refused to take the penalty. That would have been dissent. He still took it. He went
well, no, because again, he did what he was asked to do, but he just didn't do it the way he was meant to do it. So he puts himself into this thin area where the referee is left with the decision: how much of an asshole do I want to be here?
Would you?
And maybe he's lucky not to get a red. Maybe the ref couldn't lose face, so maybe he says, here's a yellow card. But let's just put it at that now and move on.
I love all these footballers in Germany, especially, who, when they score, they do the Nazi salute, the neo-Nazi salute. And they know they're going to get sent off the minute they do it. And some of them get banned for life. And yet there's still, every year you read about a guy who does it. And he just knows his career is on the line here.
I know.
If it would be one thing if you were 40 and you were going to retire anyway, and you figure, right, I want to go out with a bang.
Maybe it's...
They must... A dare?
Yeah, maybe it's just one of those things you do at a certain point in your career to get a little bit more exposure or something. I don't know.
What's the craziest dare you've ever done?
Oh, I can't answer that question live on air. What's the craziest dare? I actually genuinely can't answer that question live on air.
What's the craziest family-friendly dare you've ever done?
I don't know because the other ones just blacked them out. So I can't even remember. Like, I dare you to eat a fucking sour sweet. Like, do you know what I mean? Okay, great, I'll tell you that story. But I'm not going to tell you about fucking head the balls. Do you know what I mean?
Zero effort for this show now.
Well, I think you need to be careful
You're,
in this day and age. Lockhart,
you
welcome
never
to the
know who's
show.
listening.
We're going to move on to our next segment, and it is kind of it ties in nicely. So this was the 37-0. Hopefully, a lesson is learned in all of that anyway. But it brings us into the kind of the polar opposite of what you're saying. So these are people who've made a stand to enforce more coronavirus regulations, I suppose. And on the opposite side of it here, we have anti-maskers are now being forced to dig graves for coronavirus victims as punishment. So again, we're back to Indonesia. Weren't we there previously? For the travel advice. Yeah. We're back to Indonesia now again. Thailand, yeah. Same kind of area, isn't it?
What did you say? They're forced to dig graves. That's brilliant.
Yes. So basically, if you were,
tell us about that, Goldie.
But if you're refusing to wear your face mask in Indonesia, right? You're convicted, and then you're forced to dig the graves for the victims as punishment. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that kind of proper justice? And with photographs here, as you can see.
That's brilliant.
And it's basically the anti-maskers help to bump up the area's flagging number of grave diggers, which stands just at the tree. So this is not just a random thing. This is also solving a community problem, because you've got an issue where there's only 3 grave diggers, and suddenly there's this mad demand for graves, grave diggers. Country. Yeah, it's only a small little place, tiny little spot. Right. So yeah, you do need punishment for that, but. You're not only punishing somebody, but you're solving the issue as well, and it's absolute genius. And I think we need to get a little bit tougher in our country, and nobody.
I agree. That's brilliant about Indonesia.
No, it is, but people are actually protesting on the streets here now. These anti-maskers, as we see them. I don't know if you've seen any of the videos knocking around, Charlie.
I have, yeah. Can I ask, Goldie, is Indonesia like a dictatorship or what? Is it democracy?
I would imagine it's probably a false democracy. I don't know is the honest answer, but my impression would be that it's, they give the illusion of democracy. Probably a little bit like Russia, if we're all being honest with ourselves. But yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea, and we've got these protesters now in our country who are obviously balancing the right to protest with people's lives, and I think when it comes to people's lives, that has to immediately take precedence, and these people need to be told within minutes, disperse or you're going to be dealt with, and it needs to be that blatant. Excuse me, that wouldn't happen, my apologies. That wouldn't happen in Indonesia, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Is there something, Goldie? Is it enshrined in our constitution? You have the right to protest or whatever.
Yeah, you have the right to protest peacefully.
Okay.
But the problem, is when that act actually puts people's lives at risk. That's where you draw the line to it and say, listen, cop onto yourselves. It should not be tolerated. And these people, they can't be right in their minds. They genuinely cannot be right in their fucking minds. There's obviously an element of them that are just there to anarchists, do you know what I mean? Just to do it no matter what the cause is. But there are genuine people there who believe this shit. Do you know what I mean? That's crazy. Population of Indonesia is 267 million. Hardly a tiny place. Thanks, Buzz.
3 grave diggers.
They've only got 3 grave diggers. No, but obviously in this particular island, wherever the fuck it is, don't be smart now.
Not being smart, it's a fact.
Yeah, I know it's a fact. Jakarta. So in Jakarta, it's okay. So what's the population of Jakarta? Fucking unbelievable.
Would you say that's a well-paid job, a grave digger, or not?
No, it's a fucking tough job, isn't it? I suppose it
must be really hard, especially in winter. And
they've got 10 million in Jakarta. So still, it's not enough grave diggers, but
no.
Still,
how many grave diggers would you say are in Ireland? There must be a grave digger in every county.
You'd think so, but wouldn't they be using JCBs and stuff now? It's probably not as bad a job as it used to be. So
I presume in Jakarta they're not digging it with a shovel.
I would say so.
Really?
Well, I wouldn't be. Yeah, they are. Because why else? Yeah, of course they are. Because why else could you give the layperson on the street a fine of going to dig graves unless they're they can't ever operate heavy machinery? Do you know what I mean?
That's true, I suppose.
So they're definitely digging them themselves. It's absolutely crazy stuff.
It's like in the Second World War, the way the Nazis would get the Jews to dig their own graves. Like,
Do they get a
kinda
timed
is-
sentence or quota?
It's very surreal.
It is. It's a community service thing, Buzz. So it's timed. They get 20 hours or whatever, whatever the judge sees fit. But definitely, it's only 100 million graves each, as Buzz says. Yeah, he's fucking smart arse. We've reduced it down to 10 million, but no, it's definitely.
It's still a lot.
We definitely need to bring those laws, I think, into here. Not exactly that, but definitely get a little bit tougher, I think.
So what laws would you introduce for someone who doesn't? Well, at the moment, what, you get a €50 fine, is it, on the spot, if you're not wearing a mask in Ireland?
So they say. But like that hasn't been tested.
Is nobody getting that? No. Okay.
So
So no
you know,
one's got
nothing's
that
been
yet.
tested. You know, that's fine until people start refusing to pay it, and then you're up against it. Then, do you know what I mean?
Right.
How bad is it in
So
Ireland at the moment? Pork chop. It's
Are you
not
listening
great,
to
but
me,
it's
or
not the
are you
worst.
just reading the comments?
No, I'm listening to you. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to ask you, like, what you said we need to do something now. What would you do? Like, if you could control it, what punishment would you give to people that don't wear masks or that protest?
Well, I
Interesting.
as I said to you a minute ago, if you're at a protest and you're risking people's lives, which is what you're doing, you should be given
I agree, yeah.
one warning: disperse immediately, or we will take action. And you leave it at that. You leave it ambiguous. Do you know what I mean?
Well, if you had to come up with a weird punishment, like a kind of a punishment that's appropriate, like that exposes them to the coronavirus, if they're saying it's not a real threat or whatever, what would you do? Like, what would you love to do if you could get away with it? Plus, you probably would.
You're looking for me to say something controversial here. I just
I'm not.
educate them.
The
I
minute
want
you
the
said that about
opportunity.
Jakarta, every one of us, I'm sure, agreed and thought that is a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Like, let them have their cake and let them eat it. And if you're even doing it just for political reasons, for popularity, you know, I'm not looking for you to say something controversial, but what would you like these people to
Well,
do?
realistically, but if you say to somebody that you have to go dig graves here in Ireland, for example, they're not going to do it. It's going to cause massive controversy. It's just not going to come in, realistically. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe they could go and, you know, help in nursing homes, or I don't know. You could find something along those lines where they could provide assistance to. But that would be then considered putting them at risk, which is two wrongs don't make a right. Do you know what I mean? So I just don't think that would ever wash here. But all I want really is for them to be given an opportunity to educate, to actually sit them down and say, listen, what's wrong with you? Like, do you know what I mean? What? I always kind of grew up thinking I'd love a crack at solving the Pakistani fucking thing, the Gaza Strip. Do you know what I mean? I always wanted to broker the peace deal there. I always felt I'd be capable of it, because just no. But I that's what I genuinely, I remember hearing that on the news when you were growing up, and I was like, I'd love a crack at that. Like, do you know what I mean? What can they possibly be talking about around the table? They're all talking absolute fucking shite. Just ask them, what's fucking wrong with you? What do you want? And give it to them. Do you know what I mean? Like, who the fuck is it going to cost or hurt? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a way around it, and I'd love a crack at it. So if anyone is listening from the UN or any of that, give me a shout. Welcome into the show, Drico. Buzz, France's idea of needing a form to go out, that's the way to do it. If you don't have approval, €500 fine. Also, bringing out a form to actually go outside your door. Common Sense Pork Chop says Pakistani in the Gaza Strip. No, not Pakistani. I meant the Gaza Strip.
Palestine.
Palestine. Yeah, I did. Palestine.
Buzz is on fire today. I'm biting my tongue.
Yeah, no, I meant the Palestinians. There's a word for that conflict. What's it called?
I think it's terrible. The Indians taking over the Gaza Strip. It's ridiculous.
No, that's not happening. But what's the word for that dispute? Because there was always a term for the negotiation, and I can't think of it. But I always remember thinking, you know what, I love the idea of being able to do that. Yeah, we're just going through the comments there. I just want to educate them, to be honest with you.
So are you saying we should send the people, the protesters, to solve the Gaza problem?
No, I'm not. I'm saying let me sit down and have a chat with them. Like, maybe start with that. Maybe Goldie could sit down with the protesters, and then that could be my entry into the Gaza conflict.
World of politics.
Yeah, but
Right, that's brilliant.
no, but there has to be a way. Do you know what I mean? Of teaching these people that, like, you know,
Even
why?
If Bill Clinton couldn't solve the the Israeli-Palestine crisis. I don't think anyone can.
It's funny that you mentioned Bill Clinton, because I was only discussing him today in another group, and how great a president he was, and the another person was describing how he was a terrible president and a liar and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, it doesn't matter. If he lies about his having a fucking blowjob with some woman, does that affect his ability to be president? No, it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? He's doing a fantastic job, and he did a lot for Ireland. And again, we're trying to avoid going into the American politics as much as possible, but Bill Clinton was a fantastic president by any man's standards, or woman's, or non-binary. Do you know what I mean? Like, it really is. So for somebody to dispute that, I think is absolutely ridiculous.
I thought I loved him at the time. I still think he achieved so much, but he does come across as smarmy and intellectual. Like, the minute I hear Bill Clinton, I don't think of I did not have sex with that woman. I think of that line he said, that it depends on what your definition of is. And I just think, like, he wriggled like a worm out of things, because he was so smart. He was able to beat these people, Kenneth Starr or whoever it was, trying to trip him up, and he was able to define oral sex in weird ways.
He's the ultimate
nowadays. He should have just
charmer.
held up his hand and said, yeah. But I think he might have been better off if he just admitted to everything that he did, and then just said, "Let me get on with my job," like what you're saying. He could have achieved so much.
Yeah, but America wasn't ready for that then. It is now. America would celebrate that shit right now. People want to hear Trump about him banging. He wants to hear, like, if, for example, and it's probably going to happen in, how long have we got till election day? We've a week, is it? It probably will come out that he had an affair, another one, before then.
Who? Oh.
Trump. But
Trump,
at this stage, where all the other ones would have had to be covered up or, downplayed or whatever, this would probably be celebrated, and everyone would be like, yeah, fucking go, Trump, get yourself some piece of ass. That's the fucking reality of it now. I think that's America.
Having an affair with a porn star probably helped them.
It probably would.
I think.
It probably would.
Yeah.
We won't talk about that.
There's an accusation of rape against Joe Biden going back a few years.
I think there's something. I don't want to confirm or deny that, because definitely we're being listened to right now by U.S. security services. So we don't want to confirm or deny that whatsoever. But there is something ringing a bell into relation to some kind of sexual assault. All right, yeah.
Or that he used the used condom on someone or something.
Well,
something inappropriate.
Talk to me about used condoms, because this is a topic on our show.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of recycling, and I myself have many a time reused condoms.
Hello, Draco.
I would never. I don't think they should be sold. So I'm sure a lot of us in listening in the audience have used things again, but I don't think you should buy something thinking it's new, and it turns out it's actually.
So you're gonna be. Well, I can scatter here, and we have the story up on the screen for those that are watching. You're going to tell us that there's a case here of used condoms being sold.
Yes.
And your issue is not that happens. You'll accept that. Your issue here is that they're being sold falsely. They're basically they're being sold as new condoms. It's false advertising, and that's your problem. Like, look, okay, just talk to me through that. Yeah, talk me through it.
Many times I've bought a used car.
I know, pork chop. Awful.
I'm buying a used car. Yeah. So in Vietnam, this story is about a month old, I think, by this stage now. But I remember when I read it, I just thought this is fucked up, because of all things to go cheap on, the consequence of this.
And you've been very cheap most of your life too.
Me? Do you think?
You have.
I've spent a fortune on my children.
Oh, brilliant!
I would never buy them a used condom. So, in Vietnam, the police confiscated 345,000 used condoms in a factory. So I don't know how they found out about it, but basically they caught this factory that was basically recycling condoms. And what I loved about this story, first of all, there was the disgusting factor, because the thought now of putting a used condom, no matter how much it's been cleaned on your cock, that another man, I'm very paranoid about other men's semen or whatever. I know some men like the idea of it. Yeah, I'm not anti-gay.
That comes as a surprise to me, to be perfectly honest.
Why?
Because I wouldn't have thought you'd have an issue around another man's semen.
I would, yeah. It's just, yeah.
Okay.
I have no problem with men being gay. I have no problem I am kind of gay myself. but it's just the idea of semen. It seems so intimate. So the idea of, look, I'll be honest. Even the idea, like, would you like to wear another man's underwear?
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. No, and I get that there are probably people that are, but no, it doesn't freak me out. But no, I like if you want to do it, do it. For me, it'd be kind of disgusting, but that's because it's not a sexual thing. But if you turn using a used condom into a sexual thing, well, then it could be fucking unbelievable.
That's different. Yeah, you love that kind of shit, don't you? You really do.
I just look at the.
That's the way they should market it. Yeah. Like, you don't know who's used this condom before you, but you're going to put it on, and your bird might. It's the equivalent of your bird kind of having sex with someone else.
Exactly. It's a new form of cuckolding.
That's brilliant.
But but that's what they should do. So they
that's brilliant.
But
that's fucking brilliant. If anyone in Vietnam is listening, please tell this woman. So anyway, she was caught, right? And here's what they were doing. So the police found all these condoms, and what disgusted me was when the police raided it, the condoms were also scattered on the floor. I know that's should be the least of your concerns, but the thought of the condoms just sitting on a factory floor in Vietnam, getting other kind of germs, never mind the guy's germs. So they found all these condoms on the floor, and what the woman was doing was she was boiling them in water, and then they had a kind of a penis shape of wood, and they would stretch the condom over the penis shape of wood to basically to reshape it. So they'd boil it in water, and they'd reshape the condom, and then they would sell it as a new condom.
I'm like, firstly, I'm kind of surprised that the rubber didn't deteriorate or melt in boiling water.
Goalie, it has to have. It must have.
It surely did.
I think it must have.
Well, it wouldn't have had the spermicide on it anyway. That's for sure. But by the time it was repackaged,
I don't think every condom has spermicide.
You can get ones without it. Obviously,
the Aldi condoms don't. Yeah, the Aldi condoms don't.
But the Aldi condoms. Is there such a thing as Aldi condoms? There's not Aldi condoms.
There might not be, I don't know, but there's definitely little ones. I can tell you that for a fact. Because
wow.
You'll be strapping them on.
That's fucking crazy. That's like totally contradicted everything you've said tonight. But no, listen. If you're gonna do it right. Don't market them as being fake.
New.
You know, market them in the way that you should, as in to say these are use condoms, do what you want at your own risk. But I want to ask you, where were they getting them from?
Brilliant, Goalie. I'm so glad you asked that, because here's my last thing about this story. I love this. The woman who was arrested, here's her defense. Quote, she didn't say this exactly, obviously she's Vietnamese, but translated, we received an input of used condoms from an unknown person. Wow. So I have this image of a guy arriving in the factory. They don't know who he is. And he's like, I've shitloads of used condoms. Is there anything you could find a use for them for?
It's like
for defense. At the moment, an unknown person basically deposited loads of these condoms in her factory.
It's like the Vietnamese, The Apprentice. They're going around selling fucking shit, like they're offloading stuff for fucking 20 quid just to get rid of it. But that's incredible. It really is incredible.
It is. Can I tell you one last thing? This is really sad, actually. The woman who was doing this, she was getting paid by her employer, who's obviously, like, they didn't say it, but it's obviously some kind of, mafia or whatever, gangster controlling this, and he's paying the woman the equivalent of 17 cents for every kilo of condoms that she
every kilo
recycles.
Jesus, that's not a condom. That's fucking Jesus Christ. You'd be there all fucking day, wouldn't you?
How many condoms would you have to do? Yeah.
It's crazy.
17 cents.
Isn't it? Buzz says that
you'd be better off in a sweat factory.
You would. You genuinely would. A sweatshop. For Nike or something. No, that's been alleged. I'm not saying it's happening. But Buzz says, a dude I grew up... A dude I grew up
How many
with...
minutes into the show are we? Hold on.
We're an hour in. A dude I grew up with and his girlfriend had a lucky condom that they would wash out and reuse. They were about 15 at the time. But Buzz says this. I think Buzz, he said he was from the Midwest.
Wow.
That's you can see that happening, can't you? Because obviously at that age it would have been difficult to get condoms or embarrassing or whatever.
Expensive?
No, but I think it was just the hassle of getting them.
Presumably in America you could buy them anywhere. In Ireland you couldn't.
Yeah, but you still had there's places in America where the towns are pretty small, and did you hear fucking Johnny down the road bought condoms there? Or did you hear I got stuff? You know what I mean? Like it would get around.
Johnny bought Johnny's.
Johnny bought Johnny's. Pork chop, you're actually reading my mind here. You say, can you imagine the smell of used condoms? What is the I actually know the answer to this question, kind of in a roundabout way. But I'm going to ask you a question. What is the longest... Okay, let me just rephrase it. What is the oldest condom you've smelled? So basically, do you ever have that where you leave one around or you leave it down somewhere and you forget about it? How long has it gone? And, talk me through the experience.
Me?
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, no, I'm anal about it the minute, like, I tie it up,
Yeah.
and then the minute I'm finished...
And straight into the anus.
It's in the bin. Well, they be the elephant ones. But
Really?
no, the minute I'm done with the... Yeah. I haven't used a condom in a long, long time, actually, so I can't remember when. But, I'd hate the thought of them lying around. Absolutely hate it. So they'd be out in the bin straight away. So I probably... Like, the only time I've ever smelt one, serious conversations, when you open up that weird foil pack. And I don't find the smell of that bad. I know a lot of people hate the smell of it.
You put it down the toilet, did you say?
No. I tie it up and I throw it out in the bin.
Oh, okay. Because pork chop says in the toilet.
No. I've never used the way you can buy fruit flavor condoms and all that.
Yeah.
Stuff.
What was the point in them?
One of them? I'd love to know. Yeah, I'd love to know. If
I think it's just for when a woman is
like
giving you a blowjob that it tastes like strawberry or whatever.
It's still going to taste like rubber on it.
Yeah, but rubbery strawberry.
Well, I'd love if anyone could write in and tell us. Has your partner ever used, or have you ever used a flavored one for your partner?
Yeah, years and years ago you would have.
So what was this like? Did it taste nice or?
No, it tastes like fucking rubber strawberries. Like, do you know what I mean? It didn't taste overly bad.
Disgusting. Yeah.
But if you don't like rubber, well then you might as well.
Smell your semen.
If you don't like rubber, you might as well put a flavour to it. Do you know what I mean? But I'm surprised because I thought I'm actually mixing the stories up now because I know there was something else you smelled that was where it shouldn't have been for a long time. I do know.
Her, like, isn't that disgusting?
I do know the answer to this because I've left one for a long time, inadvertently in a drawer, and you open the drawer. I don't know, probably a couple of weeks later, and it's the fucking weirdest thing ever. It goes all brown, and then it actually turns black. Then, if you leave it for another few days just to see what happens.
Did maggots come in?
I didn't get to the stage of maggots. I don't know if there is any maggots, but the smell was interesting. Like, it was an interesting smell. It was like a dirty smell. Do you know what I mean?
Like what?
It's like...
Did you, like, you tie it up, do you, after you...
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But still, it's going to smell. And I don't know whether it's the natural smell of whatever, or if it's that's the natural smell of it mixed with the spermicide or whatever is in the condom or the rubber. But it's an interesting smell. It's kind of a disturbing yet arousing smell. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I know, because it's reminiscent of the smell of sex. Do you know what I mean? So like you know it's bad, and you're like, oh, that looks disgusting.
Does it smell
but
like
it's still
dried semen?
No, not dried semen. It smells like I don't know. Doesn't what does semen smell like even? Do you know what I mean? People say it smells like fucking fishy and stuff, but it's just I don't know. It's this urine smell, or not the urine smell, the sperm smell. Whatever that unique smell is, it's that, which but just really, really overpowering. It is gross. It smells like yeast. Pork chop says.
There's a plant that smells like semen.
Is there?
I used to have one. Yeah, it's overpowering in the summer. It's disgusting, and I'm not just saying it. I'm sure if a listener has ever smelled that plant, they'll know it. It is overpoweringly like semen after a few minutes.
Yeah, but and did it not arouse you at all?
No, not at all. I don't find the smell of semen arousing.
No, but does it surely, like, there's flares going off in your brain? Stuff is igniting, and it's like,
because you associate it with
because you associate it with sex, so you're probably going to start getting a little bit aroused, surely.
Genuinely,
that's just me.
I can't. Maybe it is. Yeah.
Buzz says that a neighbour once blocked up the drains for a row of houses, and the plumber came out and had to fish them all out. So don't be putting them into the toilet. That's a fucking horrible story. Imagine that. That's kind of.
Oh.
That's like a Goldie story almost, you know. That's interesting stuff. So yeah, maybe you should do it as an experiment for us, Charlie. Maybe you should in the next couple of days ejaculate into a condom and leave it in a cupboard.
Why me? Why not you?
Because I've done it. I know the smell. Like, maybe you should do it.
Well, like, presumably when you were young, did you?
Here's what you should do. You should do it now. If you want to do it live on air, even better. But then leave it until the next show, and then the next time we do a show, you can talk us through.
I won't go near it for a month, and then I'll take it out in the show.
Listen, I know I'm dreaming a little bit here, but it would be brilliant to get a
I can do
photograph
that.
of it every day, and then we could speed it up and
Oh,
document
man.
it. Do you know?
Why did you say it
That'd be a
changes
great
colour?
TikTok. Oh, it changes colour, yeah. It changes from the whitish to the yellowish to the light brown to fucking black. And when it gets black, it's like, fuck this, has to go in the bin. Like,
Brown.
yeah, yeah.
What is it that's making
I
it
don't know.
brown?
I don't know. I thought there was a problem, and then I had to Google it, and I was like, no, that's normal. But yeah, it's crazy.
Jesus. That's
Definitely have a look at it.
Would you be tempted to open the
And-
condom just to see what the smell is actually like then when you open it? You know, if this wax
No,
comes out at you.
I wouldn't. But now I'm interested, so maybe you should do that too.
No, I'd love if we did it together.
Midnight in
So if we
Baghdad
did
does a science
control-
project.
Yeah, perfect, Rico. Absolutely perfect. So we do it separately, and then we do one where we ejaculate into the same condom, and then we see.
So you want to do one with
One
mine,
smell.
yours, and then a mixture of both? Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
Yeah. And
Well,
then see, is there a difference in color? Because I do think that men have different types of sperm. Like when I watch porn, there's guys that just it looks like water, and then there's guys that it looks like kind of creamed rice, only without the rice in it. You know, there's those extremes.
ambrosia. Yeah, no, it does, because
Ambrosia,
I
yeah.
remember years ago, you getting my partner speaking to you and asking you what yours was like,
Yeah.
because I was told mine was like fairly thick. I just like I like my milkshakes thick. Do you know what I mean? So I don't like watery stuff. So I would have thought that's a benefit. And you were shocked by this because yours is very watery, isn't it?
Yeah, I just to clarify for the listeners, so I got a random text off his partner saying, should sperm be custardy in its whatever? And I thought she was
Custardy.
joking. I said, God no. And then she said, okay, fine. I can remember that to this day. Okay, fine. And then I have to start texting you like, what the hell is something up?
Yeah.
Well, you know the way your urine is different depending on what you've been eating or drinking. So maybe your sperm is.
Oh, it is, of
It's
course.
not something people talk about, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. The texture and taste changes from time to time, and obviously how long. No, but the taste does, depending on what you eat.
Goalie lets it drop on air.
Like if you eat a lot of citrusy stuff, it's going to be more of a citrusy taste. If you get me, pineapple, for example, as Buzz said, and I think pork chop. I was going to say soapbox. Pork chop said earlier on. Pineapple. It does change the flavor. So, like, of course it does. When you
Pineapple flavored.
semen. And people do that. I think there's actually, now that your another flare's gone off in my brain, I think there is in sex shops and stuff. You can take pills to make your semen different flavors and stuff. I'm almost sure that's true. I could be completely making that up, but there's something that's going to go off in the back of my brain. Anything sweet of citrus helps.
That's really
Yeah.
interesting.
There you go. So
Yeah, I wonder. I'd love if the listeners here, who I'm guessing are mainly male, could text in and say if they believe their partner genuinely likes the taste of sperm. I don't think I've ever met a girl that does,
really,
or a bloke.
really,
Yeah.
interesting.
Whereas, like, I never liked the taste of a woman until a few years ago. So
But they taste
I always
different as
thought
well, and surely
totally different.
that's the difference.
It's all down to hygiene.
Like if
as well.
women taste different, then why wouldn't men taste different? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, but
we all
that
remember our
means
first
it's-
time. We all remember our first oral sex adventure, and it's awful. It's fucking. It's like
You're hopeless.
you're like
Yeah,
you're like no, you're like, what the fuck did I do this for? Like, you know, you get that first taste, you're like, oh, holy bollocks, I'm gonna have to stay here now.
There are people who the first taste is the best.
The first touch is the deepest, isn't that what they say? Or the first cut is the deepest.
Cut.
The
No,
first
you're on
touch.
fire tonight. Touch.
First
We're
touch.
1 minute, 1 hour and 11 seconds.
That's fine. No, but you know, the first time that you do that, it's obviously a completely new sensation and taste.
Yeah.
And I didn't enjoy it whatsoever.
Buzz
My
says
first-
the first time with a beard is messy.
Yeah,
Well, it depends on what you mean by beard, Buzz. Because for me, beard is like the man when two lesbians are together, and the most male, like what we'd say is butch. I've heard people say that's the beard in that relationship. Have you ever heard that phrase?
I haven't. No.
Okay, I
No.
don't know if Buzz has.
But the first time you do it, for me, it was like, oh my god, this is disgusting. Why the fuck did I start this? And you feel like you have to keep going because you don't want to embarrass yourself or your one. Um, so you persevere. But then it's like Guinness, isn't it? It's like, when you try your first Guinness, it's fucking disgusting. But it's an acquired taste, and once you get to love it, there's nothing fucking better.
I remember you always said, yeah, if it was bottled, you
If it
don't.
was bottled,
I
I'd
agree with
drink
you
it, and
now.
that's true. I would, and I'm sure there's probably
I
some
would
countries you
imagine
can
my
get it.
first time though doing oral Goldie, like I wouldn't have even been able to find the clit. Like you're just licking randomly, just hoping, because and presumably when you're young, the girl is too nervous. She's not going to say either.
But well, see,
So
this is
it's
the
just
thing. When we were younger, you didn't really have the internet. Do you know what I mean? It was only
so you didn't know what you're doing.
you didn't have the access to stuff. Like
Yeah, you
for,
had
for
your dad's VCR.
yeah, but like for when you're let's think about our journey. As young kids, you saw boobs on Eurotrash or something like that, and you might watch something else on Channel 4 late at night, and you'd see a vagina. But like what we thought was a vagina was
Channel
just
4.
the pubic area. Do you know what I mean? Like we thought
Yeah,
that's what a vagina was, and then it was only sometime later when you
20
get a bit
years
older
later.
that you realize actually there's a whole other shit going on underneath there. Do you know what I mean? Like,
And it's horrific.
and it is at the time, and
I wish I'd never seen.
I remember actually getting embarrassed because there was a friend of mine. We were walking home from school, and obviously I must have had just recently seen one on TV, and I was wondering because when you get an erection, obviously it stands straight up, not sticks out, kind of perpendicular to your body. So I always wondered if it's sticking up, how are you supposed to get it into the vagina? Because as in the pubic area, because that's directly in front of you. So I'm like, you're gonna have to bend it back to get it in. But then and I'm worried. I'm actually worried about all this fucking shit. And then you realise there's a whole lot of other things going on there. And again, it's like it's something out of Alien versus Predator at the start. You're kind of fucking horrified. But again, it becomes a fucking acquired taste. But yeah, interesting stuff, man.
I don't know if anyone. I don't know. I don't know if anyone really does like the look of a woman's vagina. Like being honest.
I know you do now. Are you telling me
I don't
you
know
look?
about that
You don't. Oh, there's some beautiful vaginas there that you just see. I'm talking about obviously on magazine, not magazines, but internet sites and stuff like that, and WhatsApp videos and pictures that you get. They all look very different. There's not one that looks the same as another. And
I don't think I've ever looked at one that I would say genuinely serious conversation that looks nice.
no, there is. There's not. You
Hideous, then,
you
others.
wouldn't. You wouldn't. I think you're winding me up tonight.
No, I'm genuine. I also don't think there's a penis that looks nice. I don't know how a woman.
Buzz is going to send you some.
That man's-
Buzz, please
Maybe
do
that's just me.
send in your nicest vaginas, because now there's definitely some that you go fuck me. That
Okay,
is
so what is a
unbelievable.
nice vagina? Does it have a lot of flap? Is there, like I honestly, genuine.
I like all different types. Do you know? It depends on your humor, I suppose. But you've got the traditional nice and neat to little fucking. I'm not going to get into fucking discussing a fucking vagina. No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to go into that detail. I actually sat back to start to tell and describe in explicit detail the perfect
And then
vagina.
you realise you're not supposed to know this.
And then no, not that. I'm telling you, like, I'm not going to reveal that kind of information. I'm like, what the fuck am I at? A little part of me stepped outside myself and was like, relax. The show is okay as it is.
Right.
But
Okay.
no, I think, and just to get back to an earlier point as well, Charlie, you said that you didn't know where the clitoris was. The thing is, a lot of women at that age.
when I was young,
Yeah, no, I get that. But even girls at that stage, at that age, didn't probably know either where it was or what it did or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying?
Point actually, yeah. Yeah, they might not. Yeah.
So a lot. So it's not difficult. It's not something to be ashamed of that you didn't know where it was. But it's not really that difficult to find if you know the general direction you're going.
I said all of us. I'm not saying I was the only one.
Oh, I know, but if you know the general
Everyone.
vicinity, you'll find it. And
Yeah, you're hoping by sheer licking enough or moving your tongue enough, you're going to hit it.
yeah, but like you
It
have to
is-
take
it
it
is
easy.
hitting it.
Like, will you take it a little bit slowly? Will you? Like, don't be fucking rushing around looking for the fucking thing. There's
Look,
nothing
you know
worse.
the way my legs get jittery,
I do.
quiver. Yeah, so I'd be the same with my tongue, I imagine.
Yeah, well, I just recommend you take it slow, and you'll find it in no time.
Appreciate that. No, I found it since. Yeah.
Yeah,
On
but
my journey through life, I found it.
obviously, presumably all women's are different, obviously, because they look different. Well, then
they're
obviously the anatomy might be the same,
place.
but the display would probably be a little bit different, because you have people that look different, and like their noses are
I
different,
actually think
their
when
eyes
you're
are different. So
when
why
you're doing
wouldn't their
oral
clitoris
sex,
be different?
no, that's true. I suppose.
Do you know?
When you're doing oral sex, it's the closest you are to being blind because you're not looking. You're going with, the feel of your tongue, and you're waiting to feel that kind of bud or whatever it is. That.
Like a little earbud. But you also need to
Yeah,
feel the sensation as well. Do you know what I mean? You need to feel that little quiver, or that little moan,
the
or
woman's reaction or the man's reaction
or the
yeah.
man's, whoever it is. So there is a little bit of an art to it, but you'll find it. You'll definitely find it.
There is, and I do think as we get, no, I have found it. I have.
Okay.
Wisteria,
welcome to the show.
As we get older, we'll get better at it. Even I think you probably think, no, I'm an expert now. I'm at the top level, is what you're thinking. Whereas Goldie or Charlie is in the Bundesliga with like that German team. But no, I do think I found it. I do think we'll get better as we get older, won't we? It's just life.
It does, but then sometimes you get tired, don't you? I think you get less fit, and I think you got to keep that tongue wagging. You got to keep it going as much as possible, because it does get tiring, after a while. But you do need to keep it exercised.
I remember trying to give oral sex to a woman, and I just had to give up.
But that's because you're taking it too fast. If you slow it down a little bit. Wisteria says, has Goldie found it though? Goldie knows where it is, all right. Yeah, that's not a problem. It's in different places for different ladies, but you'll get there. You'll find it eventually, if you know what you're looking for. So thank you. We will move on to another subject. Charlie, you're going to talk to us a little bit. We got very sexual there, and I think we need to just roll it back in there now and get back on target. We were talking about used condoms, and suddenly we're talking about taste, which I suppose is a natural enough move in. The AI robot serves customers at Seoul restaurant. What's happening here?
This was a strange story, to be honest, because I thought it would have been around for a while in Japan. I have this stereotypical image that Japan is years ahead of us in terms of robots and AI and stuff. I think that if I ever went to Japan, it would be like Minority Report, kind of.
Some sci-fi film. But I suppose Tokyo is probably like that.
I know that's racist to think that.
It's not racist. It's a
stereotype. As well, then.
No, but I think Seoul, or not Seoul, likes of Tokyo.
Yeah,
Seoul is Korea, isn't it? That's I'm sorry. I was thinking of Japan. You'd like to Japan, and Tokyo, I would imagine, is very high tech and kind of Blade Runner kind of feel to it. Do you know what I mean? But I don't think all of Japan is like that.
True?
But I don't think that's a bad way to think about it.
It does seem racist, but do you think that's actually true, or is that just you saying?
No, I think it is. If you ever look at if you ever look at pictures of Japan, it's like if you ever look at pictures of New York, you're going to see the skyscrapers, and you're going to see the Statue of Liberty and the Empire State and all these kind of things. You see pictures of Paris, you're going to see the Eiffel Tower and the Arc de Triomphe. So you're going to see pictures of Tokyo, you're going to see their buildings and their tech and their billboards and all that stuff. Do you know what I mean? So it's okay to think that.
Yeah. All right, thanks. So there's an AI robot that has been in a Seoul restaurant, and it's been introduced because of COVID-19, because of social distancing. I think this was brilliant, and this could be, though, the way, through the smallest chink, that something can get in, and then it changes everything. So this might not have been acceptable, and then because of COVID-19 and because of the need for social distancing, that they allow this AI robot. So basically, an AI robot is now serving customers in a Seoul restaurant. The Seoul restaurant is called Mad for Garlic, and this restaurant is equipped with SLAM. So I'd love if you can guess what
SLAM
means. It's obviously SLAM. Yeah, it's obviously some kind of technical term for AI, for something that the AI robot can do. See if you can
I'd say
figure it out.
service.
Well, you're not going to do
service something automated, made or maitre d' or something like that. I don't know, what does it tell me?
To do with it's nothing to do with restaurants. Just it's a thing to do with AI, if you know what I mean.
All right, simultaneous localization and mapping.
Yeah, exactly. Well done. Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
Like a sat nav or whatever. So this robot is serving customers now in a restaurant in Seoul. It can serve 4 tables at the same time. So kind of like I'd imagine a real waitress. And to me it just sounds it would be it would be a cool experience to have a robot serving you.
It would be a cool
And
experience, but again, it's not like is it really solving the fucking problem? Do you know what I mean?
I think anyone who's out
It's a
eating in a
novelty.
restaurant in this day and age is asking for trouble. If you're thinking of COVID, so it's not going to solve the problem of COVID, but it's solving a problem of the restaurant staying
Yeah,
open.
but I think it's just a novelty. It's not going to be something that kicks off mainstream. It's just too expensive. But it'll be one of those things that you go to Vegas and get, and it's one of those things you go to Tokyo or London. You know, it'll be an experience where you can go.
I think it will kick off, Goldie.
Not mainstream.
I think it'll be the beginning. 20 years from now, it could be. It'll put. They say that very very soon, doctors will be operating on people remotely. So in other words, they'll be operating through a robot. So if you have an expert doctor in Galway, he doesn't have to travel up to Dublin to do the operation.
Yeah.
That in a few years he'll do it in Galway, and he'll be operating through a robot. If that's coming, then AI robots in restaurants.
Yeah, but they'll have backups there as well. There'll be a doctor on hand if something was to go wrong or the signal dropped or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not going to be an issue. But I just think this is going to be too expensive, particularly for like if you're looking at waitresses and stuff like that. They're probably, you know, traditionally or stereotypically they're the lowest paid. They rely on tips, so you're hardly going to replace somebody that you can get for minimum wage with a machine that costs thousands, probably tens of thousands. Do you know what I mean? I'm sorry, it's not going to happen.
Years, doesn't get holiday pay, can work 24/7. It could work out financially.
I don't know, and I think the maintenance and stuff. And if you're to change the layout of your restaurant and their menus, and I think there's just a lot of work in it. I think it's a novelty.
Maybe Goldie, but so I'm a fan of the X-Files, and you know the way they had a comeback or whatever last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And there was an X-Files episode. One of the last ones was basically one of the X-Files it was one where there was no dialogue. So it has Mulder and Scully sitting in a restaurant, and it's an Asian restaurant in America, and they don't talk to each other. So they order the food, and it's all automated. It's all AI. So the food comes out to them, you know, on this kind of tray.
Yeah.
There's no human involved. And then they get the option: do you want to leave a 10% tip for the cook? But the cook is also AI. So Mulder and Scully don't. And then the whole episode was basically they're targeted by the AI intelligence. It sets off their house alarm at home. It just destroys their life
Because it didn't give them a tip.
Because the humans didn't give them a tip.
That sounds more like a Black Mirror episode or something than an X-Files.
Obviously inspired by but this was a new X-Files, so it's obviously inspired by I'd say Black Mirror kind of idea.
But they didn't say a word throughout the whole show.
They said 2 words at the end. That was it. It was a smart episode, and that was all visual. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Come here, can I ask you a thing then? Racist. This probably is racist. So I apologize in advance for saying.
Well, can you be careful about? Hang on. What are you talking about?
It's a question. You can answer it or choose not to answer it. The AI robot. Would you say that it's made to look like human? And if it is made to look human, would you say it's like Asian looking?
Well, I actually saw a picture of it there a while ago, and I was looking it up. Sorry.
So
and it kind of looks like no, it's not humanoid. It's on wheels, and it has like a hole in the middle that I presume you'd put the tray in. I'm trying to find it.
Is it straight out? Like if your cock is at a 90-degree angle, will it work?
No, you know what I'm saying. I've seen it there. Now it's not. Have you got a picture of it? Where are you going with this? Are you trying to say that they've made it look like an Asian or a black person or something?
I honestly don't know. I'm asking. I haven't seen a picture of it.
All right, no, it looks like a square with a hole in the middle that you'd put your plate and an LCD screen on the top of it. And
so it's not in any way human, right?
No.
Because you know the way when I think of we talked about this in the show, the robot sex dolls, right? And when we were
there it is, there, folks.
I was picturing that the robot sex doll would be Caucasian, but obviously it wouldn't be. It would be Asian if it's all coming from Asia.
Yeah.
The robot sex doll will look Asian. And when I looked up other stuff like what's happening in robot news, during at the end of the summer there, the first AI robot was called Erica. Sorry, not the first AI robot. But for the first time in history, an AI robot has landed a lead role in a movie.
Okay.
So that and again, it's because of COVID-19. So the film was going ahead, and they realized, you know, issues. This was in July, so they couldn't have actors and so on. The guy wanted to continue making the movie. It is a sci-fi movie, which is perfect, and it's called B, small letter B. That's literally what the film is called. So keep an eye out for folks. It hasn't been released yet,
Yeah, well,
but it's
I think
the
people are
lead
going to make
character in it
these.
is an AI robot.
Yeah, but people are going to take these opportunities now during COVID to do all these things. We're looking at this thing in action. It basically looks like, you know what it looks like? Is a miniature X-ray machine that you'd walk through in the airport with trays in the middle of it. So where you'd walk through are trays, and you know your food would be on top of that, and it just rolls around the place and delivers your food to you. It's it's
Gimmicky.
gimmicky, exactly. Yeah, it's not going to kick off. Charlie, I'm just going to let you talk there with the folks there for a second. If you just excuse me for a moment,
Okay,
keep
no
keep the
problem.
chat going there for me.
Where are you going? So I hope all you guys are doing well. So the goalie show is over. So we'll actually have some proper conversation. Feel free to write in now for a proper thing. But while he's gone, I'm fascinated and scared by the idea of AI and robots. I remember hearing at the start of COVID in America, I think it was Boston or somewhere, they had a robotic dog that was used by police for bomb disposal and so on. But the health department asked, could they take some robot dogs to help in the hospitals to minimize patient doctor contact? So they took a robot dog, and the robot dog was in, I think it was in Boston, in a hospital in Boston. And when patients are coming in, they have to be tested. Their temperature has to be checked. So this robot dog does that, and it's got a mirror that you can then see, or a computer screen, so the doctor can talk to you through the robot dog. So it's a way of getting diagnosed with COVID without the person having to interact. But that's very strange. Wait, are you in Boston? Yeah, so that's perfect. So I don't know, but this was Boston Dynamics, and they had a robot dog. They called the robot dog Spot, which surprised me because if you've got these fucking geniuses in Boston, they're able to invent a robot dog that can interact with humans, and the best name they could come up with was Spot. It seems a bit of a letdown. But I don't know if you could let me know if the robot is still working or whatever. So, Buzz, you're saying in the company I work for, when clients call us, they don't talk to humans.
That's very
They
interesting,
don't
isn't
know
it?
it.
They don't know it.
Wow.
So if you ring this company, so for example, if you're ringing, say Virgin Media, let's say, and it's
We might need
we're
them
not
to
we're
go
not saying that
talk
it
to
is
us right
Virgin
now.
Media, but let's say you're ringing a utility company, an unnamed utility company, and you know you realize that you know you think you're talking to a person, but it's actually a machine like an Alexa or whatever. Isn't that scary that we don't know it?
Yeah. Like I would have thought you'd know that there would be the lack of intonation, there'd be lack of emotion in the voice.
But you see,
So that is
they
scary.
can mimic a lot of that stuff now. So yeah, I
But
think
then I'm going back. I know it seems like I'm going back to the sex robots a lot. Then that would make it a lot more realistic if the sex robot talks
oh, there's
and
most definitely
it
going to
can
be a
have emotion.
time. There's most definitely going to be a time in our lifetime where sex robots will actually walk and talk and go to shops with you and do stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? They will evolve to that, no doubt about it, and it'll just be accepted. But we're not. We're definitely not at that stage now. But you can see that this is the first steps to that. That
I don't think we even accept mail order brides, and they've been around for years.
we do accept
Like
mail
no
order
one is going
brides.
to both. I don't think so. I think people are embarrassed about it. Do you know anyone who says, "Yeah, I have a mail order bride"? They're kind of embarrassed, even though you might see someone in public. It's an older man with a very Asian, younger looking woman,
Yeah, but we
and that's
accept it.
exactly
Like
what you and you think that.
but we take the piss out of it and we joke about it and look at your man or whatever. But we let it leave him be. So I think it'll just be like that. But yeah, like you can see that the sex dolls are getting more realistic. But you know, for me, it's all about the emotion. If there's no emotion, there's no point in having sex at all. And I
What
just
about
don't get
fake emotion though. If it can fake it,
if it can fake it, if it can make you believe that it's real. Well, then that's fair enough. But at the moment, it's an animate object. It's not going to be able to arouse it in any way. Buzz says that if you say hello and you say hola, it will switch time Spanish. So it'll
hola,
switch to
hola.
Spanish.
Don't pronounce
So
it good.
basically, whatever way you speak, language you speak, it'll automatically change, as if that's not a big clue. But very clever technology. Benji says Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston is using Spot the robot. This is first I've heard of it tonight. Had to look it up. Wow. So there's a robot dog in the hospital. You see, it is. It's creeping in.
No, 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 no. It's a game.
Oh, it's a game, is it?
Yeah, yeah. It's like you remember when we were kids in the newspaper, it was Spot the Ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, so something similar.
But like,
I'm kind of scared of the idea of. And I know that sounds so old-fashioned, but I would hate if what Buzz is saying is true, and obviously Buzz would know. I hate the thought of like when the last time you ran customer service, you might have been talking to AI and you might have known it. Now, even if your problem still got dealt with, it's a bit weird when you look back.
yeah, because if you end up like having a bit of crack with them on the phone as well, you know, and if they're able to give it back to you, and you felt that you had a bit of a rapport with somebody, you know, and it turns out to be a machine, it's very fucking clever, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you remember I sent you a link about 2 months ago, an article in The Guardian that was totally written by AI? So it was an article that was written, and that really freaked me out. The question the Guardian editors put to this AI
Convince me
program,
you're not human or something, or convince me you're human, wasn't it?
convince me that you're not going to hurt humans, something like that. They had to be given a kind of a statement to respond to. They couldn't just write an article on anything. They weren't able to do that yet. But they were told, write an article that convinces us that you're not a threat to humanity. That was it. And the robot wrote it. And that just blew me away and freaked me out a little bit.
Because obviously, if it was capable of doing that, it's capable of fooling us, I suppose.
Yes.
So
and then you're getting into your sci-fi movies and you know all that kind of thing, which we've been watching since we were kids. And I know we're kind of like we're obsessed with that. I'm seeing here a comment about the Turing test.
Isn't that
is that about testing if an AI can pass as human, or am I wrong?
You're thinking of Blade Runner there, but no, it's a test to determine if a computer is capable of thinking like a human. I think is what it is.
Not imitating one. Okay, right.
Yeah, it's
that would be really scary. In other words, that a robot, that a computer could believe it's human. Is that what you're saying?
No, I actually do know the answer to this question, but it's kind of lost it a little bit. But it's basically...
Buzz is written correct here. Which is correct, Buzz? Sorry. So what is the Turing? Okay. That is really scary. I wonder when Goldie
they use it in Blade Runner at the start of the movie. They kind of use a variation of it, testing the eyes and asking them questions. But it's about basically AI. The ultimate AI is AI that is indistinguishable from a human, and it's being able to convince you that they're human. It's definitely something along those lines. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely scary.
In Blade Runner, is one of the things in Blade Runner that the AI robot doesn't even know she's a robot. Like that she thinks she's human.
I think this is the one that works at the...
Ex Machina. There you go. Ex Machina is a great film. You love that as well.
It's
that blew me away.
That's the one on the island, isn't it?
She believes she's human, doesn't she?
Yeah. Great shows. Definitely interesting stuff. We're going to keep an eye out for kind of artificial intelligence over our next couple of shows and see where we're progressing. It's definitely creeping in, as you say. There's doctors, there's waiters.
And because of COVID.
There's answering phones. It's definitely going to be slowly coming in, but it's not going to replace anything just yet, I don't think. We shall move on. Have you heard about a 12 billion trust fund that was cracked open there in last September, just gone, for UK teens? Have you heard about this?
Nope.
This was a brilliant story sent in to us by actually one of our listeners. And basically during the time of Tony Blair in the UK when he was Prime Minister, he basically set up this initiative. Do you remember that we had something in Ireland called the... what was the one we had where you got a euro for every €4 or something you spent or you saved? Do you remember that?
Oh, yes, I did that. Yeah, I remember.
The SIA scheme, was there something like that? SCIA or something? Right, yeah. So, but it's kind of along those veins in a way, and in other ways it's completely different. But basically the government put money away 18 years ago or something as a kind of a trust fund or a nest egg for people who turn 18 on the 1st of September 2020. So this is just money that the government is giving them for turning 18, and it can range from something like $1,300 to $93,000, and this is obviously the Americans are kind of reporting on this, so it's converted to dollars, but you're talking like 100 grand there. Do you know what I mean? Up to 100 grand just for turning 18. What do you think it is? And would you want it
did
for your
these
kids?
people have to invest money in it
No, no, the
to start
government, the
off?
government invested in it for
So
them. It's free
every
money.
single that's crazy. So you didn't have to put money in the first place. It wasn't a way to
No,
encourage people to
the
save.
government did it 18 years ago. They put it into this fund 18 years ago. And it grew to whatever levels that now they can give up to 12 billion out to every person who turned 18 on the 1st of September. And it's a
On
way
that date,
on
only
that
only
date.
if you turned on the first of. So that wouldn't be that many young people.
No, but
That's not going to be a lot of.
it's for presumably it's for a year. So anyone who turns 18
Oh, right.
on Tuesday would begin. Yeah, so if you turn 18 after Tuesday, I would imagine is when
Right,
it
so it's
is.
not just anyone on that date, right? So
Yeah,
it's
so
going to be a hell of a lot.
every person born in the UK between the 1st September 2002 and the 1st of January 2011 will get a tax-free windfall.
Right, so I wonder how much each person gets.
Well, that's what I said. It's between
For no
1,000 and
reason.
100,000, depending on your personal circumstances. Obviously, if you're from a wealthy family, you're going to get less because you don't need it. But it's definitely a brilliant, and you can imagine that being a kind of an election promise or something 18 years ago that everyone kind of forgot about, and now it's there.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's genius campaigning, I suppose.
Yeah,
But
that's brilliant.
but at the same time, is it dangerous? If you give
way.
if you give an 18-year-old, let's go 30 grand on the day they turn 18, you give an 18-year-old 30 grand. That presumably the government have given you this so you can start your college life, so you can maybe go to college, buy a house, set yourself up in life. And what most 18-year-olds do, they'll feck off to Australia or Thailand or one of these places. They'll end up putting a bad review up and they'll get jail. Do you know what I mean? But that's the world we're living in now. They'll blow it because not an awful lot of 18-year-olds have a lot of sense when it comes to that kind of thing. Can you imagine? Now, I have to say, you're probably an exception. If you had 100 grand when you're 18, you'd probably still have it now because you wouldn't have fucking spent it. But
I would have loaned it all to you. One of your harebrained schemes.
maybe. Buzz says that's their prerogative. Yeah, it is their prerogative to do it, but it's also the government's prerogative not to give them the money. So it is controlled with Syria, in the sense that you just have to be
decide
18.
Who gets the money and who doesn't get the money if you promised you give it to all 18-year-olds? You can't turn around now and say,
Yeah, but it's obviously means tested, so you'll get as much as your life kind of gives you, essentially. Like, as I said, if you're really poor, you're going to get more money because you need more money.
do you think it's fair that
So it's controlled in that way, but I don't think it's held and it's only used for college. I think it's just given to them. And I just don't think I could trust an 18-year-old to do that. I think there should be stipulations that it's here as a college fund, it's here as an apprenticeship fund, or for to buy a house,
or whatever,
a mortgage on a house, a deposit on a house or something. You can use it for a multitude of things, but stuff that's actually worthwhile, not to go on the piss with.
I'd agree with Buzz. It's not right to give poor people more. Like, I mean, if this was an election promise to all 18-year-olds.
We have a call coming in.
If you're 18.
Lockhart, how are you?
How are you guys?
Thanks for tuning in and welcome to the show. You presumably have a comment here in relation to this topic.
I'm a little shocked.
Turn an 18 year
Absolute. Where are these future teachers? How can I get this? No, I don't understand the rationale here.
Why not?
Because it couldn't possibly be as simple as let's even everything out. Let's make the poor rich and give them rich a little bit extra just to keep them. It couldn't possibly be something to level the playing field. I don't understand. That's not just the whole work.
Well, I don't think it's designed to level the playing field. I think it's designed to just give people a leg up. Do you know what I mean? A little bit of support.
But giving people a leg up is using that money and investing into hospitals and colleges. Not necessarily, giving massive donations. But let's say you got a letter in the post and say, congratulations, you're 18. Your college is completely free, and what's more, here's a grant for tuition and books. Do whatever you want. Your master's is covered. Your doctorate is covered. That's what it should be used for, like free education. Or congratulations, you're now insured for the next 20 years medically of your life.
Yeah, no,
So
listen. I get, and we're kind of agreeing in some way, Lockhart, there, because I think there should be a control on it, on what it's spent on, and it should be spent on something worthwhile, and not used as a piss take, and to go on the piss on holidays or to buy drugs with or
that's
whatever.
fine. And what the government does with their money is fine. But
Sales of those air canisters will go through the roof.
but
Yeah,
I can't figure out what the rationale here was.
I think it's just to give people support. That's all. There's nothing more to it. It's just a nice gesture by the government that would have probably been very cost effective at the time. But
There's no government or agency or group of people in the world that put a finger down and say, these guys right here.
but they have to
this
start
date,
somewhere,
this
don't they,
date,
Lockhart?
this date."
They have to start somewhere.
Well, look, it is a ballsy move, and let's see if it works out. And it is interesting from that respect. I mean, how many countries are doing this? Is this the first time it's ever been done?
I don't know.
These big bold moves need to be done somewhere and somehow by somebody.
Yeah,
Or else we'll never.
they do. But I think definitely you have to take into account that not everybody, college life is not for everyone either. So some people might not want to go to college, and
That's fair.
we need to kind of move away from that traditional, this is what you need to do, because we understand more that people have different abilities and skills and stuff. So I think if they can demonstrate that the money's being
Scandinavia,
used for a good purpose, it's okay.
Yeah.
Have you heard, Goalie, of a country or Lockhart of a country in Scandinavia that trialed
Good point, Buzz.
universal income, basic income, or something like that? That everyone in the country, no matter what you were already working on, that you got a certain amount of money every week or every month from the government. Everybody did. Sorry, every adult did. And then the onus, and that would be enough to survive. And then the onus was on you was to, like, if you want to work and make extra money, that's fine. There's no
Wasn't
goal.
Ireland already-
Are you talking about some
Everyone
kind of advanced communism? Like a communism democracy
I don't
or
know what to
not
call it.
capitalism hybrid?
It was a democratic government that came up with it. I'm only talking about 2 or 3 years ago.
But it's
One of
not.
the
Is it
Scandinavian countries.
okay? Well, I'd love to. I genuinely would love to hear more about that.
Every 18-year-old a certain amount of money, and then basically, regardless of whether you were loaded as a businessman or woman or whether you're unemployed, they were talking about getting rid of the dole, and everyone got this money. It would be enough to survive on, basically. That sounds.
It's
similar
like a
to what-
utopian society. I can't see that working, but I love the
We
idea
have
of it.
that here.
Yeah, I don't
We
think
have that here.
it lasted.
Universal basic income in Finland is what Buzz says.
Finland, right?
So it's actually working at the moment, is
It
it?
didn't last long.
Oh,
No,
it didn't.
I don't think it lasted.
Yeah,
Buzz.
no, I wouldn't expect it to.
In the terms of child welfare. Child welfare is what, 145 per child. Up to the fact that they're 18. Whether you're rich or poor, every child gets it.
And that's why you have like 15 of them, I'd say, Lockhart, is it? Come here to...
I never said that.
but listen to me. If I was to say to you, Lockhart, that we can have both, right? We today in Ireland, we have enough money to sort the hospitals out. We have enough money to sort the justice system out. We have enough money to sort housing and homelessness and all the issues that we have. We've enough money to do it. But also, we have this as well. We have enough money to actually do this for people born in 2038. Halloween 2038.
Is the reverse of this true? Is the investment a potential loss for the country? Is it a potential hit for everybody that
But-
year to receive less?
Well, no, because as I just said, we were able...
actually have to pay money.
Well, no, because we're obviously taking money out of the economy to fund this future.
Yeah.
Windfall.
Yeah,
This
but
investment.
I just explained to you,
What if this
Lockhart.
windfall but what if this investment was in 2008 or 2009, for example, instead of 2020 or whatever?
2002.
What if the windfall was, or whatever, or 2002? Yeah, fine. But what if it fell on, let's give everybody the money in 2009?
Well, there would have to be emergency provisions there that, depending on economic conditions or whatever, because at the end of the day, it's free money. There's no obligation there. But, you'd have to write in all these kind of safeguards. I think we're all kind of on the same page that we'd like the money to be given, but in a controlled situation. Lockhart, I'm sure you would have availed of it if it was open to you.
Look, I'm one to vote correctly and get our voted electorate to make the correct decisions for, the people. So, if the system's there, the system works. Use the system. Just be good at your paperwork and be diligent about it. But
Well, I love this because it means I'm going to be able to hit my ex-wife for a lot of alimony now.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. Wait, did you have to be born in England, or did you just have to be in England at the time? Blair's government. I'm looking it up here.
That
I'm
you,
actually sending
just,
an email.
you're kind of coming
to
into
my
it.
solicitor
You're kind of
as
getting
we
in.
speak.
You're getting into territory there of when is life a life, and we don't want to go down there. Buzz says this was a saving scheme. Parents had to deposit money, and yeah, there was the SSIA scheme, and then there was something that came I think shortly after where
Oh,
parents
so
could
you
do
don't
it.
get anything if your parents didn't invest, then that's fair. I think that's fair then.
That is fair.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
No, this is maybe, but I think the government parents had to deposit money. Yeah, it was a scheme open to the parents. Yeah, that's right. But the SSIA was a great scheme. I think it was €1 for every 4 you saved, if I'm right.
Yeah, it was, and it was a
Or a
quick
pound.
turnaround, though. That was the thing.
Yeah.
But didn't it break the government? Didn't the payouts like cripple stagger?
Quite potentially. I remember in an old job I was in, I was part of this kind of share scheme where you bought X amount of shares in the company by paying it every week, but you'd have one in 3 years, 5 years, and 7 years. So you pay into 3 different schemes, and then it obviously cost you a fortune at the start, but on the 3rd year you get a massive payout. On the 5th year you get a massive payout. On the 7th year you get a massive payout. But then by the time you got to the 7th year, you had so many going that every year you were getting this fucking windfall of 5 to 10 grand or whatever it was. Do you know?
And was this obligatory or just?
No, you could sign up to it. It was like a share saving scheme. It was brilliant. I don't know if it's still going, and obviously I left that, so I had to cash it out early and didn't kind of benefit from it fully. But it was definitely a brilliant
So
scheme.
you were able to cash out of it though.
Yeah, you're able to get your money back at a certain point. Yeah,
Some of it back.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Right.
definitely an interesting one. Wisteria says interesting. It is definitely very, very interesting.
Took the words right out of your mouth.
As I said, it wasn't availed
Bonus
of.
scheme.
Yeah, the bonus didn't come essentially because we took it out too early.
But yeah, are you talking about when you were young?
Life was so wonderful and magical.
But no, seriously, when you're young, you're not going to invest in what you said, 5 years.
I would have
3
been
years.
early 20s. Do you know what I mean? So it was something that.
So would you have?
Oh, I did.
Money into it,
I did
obviously,
do it. Yeah,
Okay.
I did. So yeah, I it'll be interesting to see how these kids get on. And Buzz is right. Kids from the flats aren't going to end up going to Oxford just because you give them 100k. You are right, and I think definitely there needs to be kind of controls and
Should be
safeguards in
allowed to go
place.
to Oxford anyway.
Well, that's a different debate. We're going to get into
It's not even a debate.
We're okay.
If they don't
Speaking
go to Oxford, they'll go back into the economy.
Speaking about facts, we're going to move on to our next story now, folks. And this is Stormzy responds to newspaper mistaking him for Man United's Romelu Lukaku, and grime artist is not happy. Now, you brought this story to us, Charlie, and I was a little bit dismayed
I
to
did
see it.
2 years ago. No, this is not the story, Goldie. That's not the story.
No, but is it not leading it?
Alexander Wilson.
Is it not leading into the other story?
No, the other one is the up-to-date one. That's just an offshoot of it.
Okay, but
Alexander Wilson.
no, yeah, this is our last story then. Florence Eshalomi, the black MP
Alexander
mistaken for colleague, condemns racism.
That's terrible. Tell us about that. Goldie.
This is your story that you gave it to me.
Okay, I've all of these.
You're trying to
stories
set me
tie
up
in
here.
together, and no, this is endemic of the racism in the world that we live in today. They're all the same story, and that's the shocking thing. So we'll go with your one first.
I don't
have
have.
into me, Florence.
I didn't send it to you.
Chalamoy.
So okay, I didn't send this in, but I'm gonna just glance at it and have a go of it, okay? And you're a bollocks for doing this to me. So basically, this is an MP, a member of Parliament in the UK, who has revealed that she's been twice mistaken for black female colleagues in Parliament in the last 6 months. She's an MP in the southwest of London, and she's basically been subjected to these mistakes where people think she's someone else, another black woman who happens to be a member of government. And obviously that's not right, is it? Like, it isn't right.
It isn't right. No,
But at the same time,
Here's my-
it's an easy mistake to make, isn't it?
I agree. The House of Commons stated, it's clear that racism continues to blight the lives of black people. Now, if I was an MP who genuinely mistook Florence for whatever other MP, I wouldn't consider myself a racist. It wasn't like they did it deliberately. You genuinely mistook one woman for another woman.
Yeah.
I don't think it's racism. I genuinely don't.
But
And
yeah,
on
it's
this
the
show,
case
we've
where-
no time for racism.
But isn't it the case where, like, if there is only a select few of darker skinned people wearing the same clothes in this in or in a limited setting, you wouldn't maybe focus on them. You'd pass them in the hall maybe, and you'd give the wrong name. Do we know the full facts here, or is she just saying that she's?
So she says on the first occasion, I was coming through central lobby, and an MP ran up to me and just broke into conversation. Then she stopped herself because she realised I wasn't Kate. She thought I was Kate Ossamore. She was so embarrassed, just literally ran out again.
You see, so the woman was embarrassed. It wasn't like
It's terrible, but like, and for those that are watching on Facebook or on the stream, you can see you picture the two women here. But before we go into describing the women,
that's not them.
Wait a second. Before we go forward, have either of you two guys ever waved at someone across the street?
this is my point.
with somebody else?
This is my exact point that I'm getting to, Lockhart.
'Cause I do it all the time.
Yeah, I wave to people, or I talk to people, and I think there's someone else all the fucking time. Or you kind of look at somebody and you can't think of what their name is, but you know them really well, but for some reason you just can't think in that moment what their name is. So we do mistake people all the time, but obviously it's topical now because this person happens to be black. No, I wouldn't. I'm not. No, but my white colleagues or friends or whoever, you'll sometimes mix them up, or you'll forget their name for a moment, or it does happen.
Now, would you honestly, Goldie? I don't think you'd mistake a white colleague, would you? For someone else.
Definitely you would.
Yeah.
Or that person looks like somebody or whatever. I'll tell you what. Actually, I have an example. I actually have an example, right? Because I remember a couple of years ago, I was in work and I was just walking down the corridor, and there was a particular course that I wanted to do, and there was this guy that he kind of organised them, or he was like one of the instructors or whatever, right? And I said to him, "Hey, is there any chance of getting that course?" And he says, "I don't know, maybe get on to such and such, because they're the ones that run it." And I'm like, "What?" And I was just looking at him. But he's like, "Oh, you think I'm fucking someone else?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, mate." He says, "It's okay, I get it all the time." So I actually confused two people that I knew as being each other. Do you get me?
Goldie, that exact thing happened to me last month, and that's partly why I sent this story in.
Tell me about it.
In a group of kids that I teach.
So you're a teacher, okay.
I'm a teacher. Well, we know that in my day job. There's in my 6th year class, there's 26 students. 2 of them are black. Now, we're back in school under the pandemic conditions. They were wearing masks. Only 2 of them are black.
Okay.
And I asked one of them a question. I said, "Precious, what do you think of such and such?" And
Don't call me Precious, like Lord of the Rings shit. Like, what?
But I looked at the wrong girl, and I was looking at her for about half a minute, and then she said the penny dropped for her. She said, "I'm not precious."
And you should say all my students are precious. That's what you should have said.
That's what I should have said.
And you would have got out of
It's
it.
like, I know you're not.
If I had you I'm not allowed to say that anymore. Ever since
Oh yeah.
But tell me, what happened then?
But anyway.
Was she offended?
well, I don't know. I was mortified. I apologized.
And what did she say?
She didn't say much. She didn't say anything.
I'm
But
sure
I
that
was
happens to a
mortified.
bunch of white kids as well in school settings with masks on these days.
It probably does,
Yeah.
but the problem is because they're black, it's going to pose an issue in today's society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as Buzz says,
But
yeah,
do I
you have
consider
been.
myself a racist.
No, you're not a racist. We know you're not.
Have you
No.
made, Charlie, have you made that mistake with anybody else? Since you returned?
You mean white children?
Well, yeah.
No. No, I haven't, unfortunately.
But like, that's
But
not a
look,
problem
I'm not
either.
the only one, right? So you're after talking about the black MP.
Sorry, Buzz. No, just before we go off, because Buzz says, "Have you ever been mistaken for somebody, but somebody that you actually like, or somebody who, it's a compliment, so it's not actually a negative? So, for example, Vince Vaughn or Tom Cruise or whoever. If you're mistaken for somebody that's actually cool, you're not going to have a problem with it, are you?
That's true. So imagine you're a really fat black lad, and you get on a lift or whatever, and someone says, "Oh, Will Smith, can I get your autograph?" should that person be happy or should they be offended?
Okay, well that's probably a stretch, but yeah, I suppose there's exceptions for everything. But I think the issue here. So we're going back to looking at the picture now. They, you know,
They look alike.
They do look alike, and they are granted. There's a little bit of a different shade of black. You know what I mean on them. Their hair is both braided, but they have similar features.
They are black. It's not. Yeah.
I know, but their skin are different tones, so you could probably,
Hold a second.
if you're having difficulty.
Wasn't there a whole Star Wars film about Keira Knightley and Natalie Portman switching places because they look alike?
There was.
Yes,
Actually.
yeah,
Come
there
on.
was.
You know, granted, it's made a mistake, and okay, I'm not saying that the members of Parliament aren't bigots. They probably are. Like, let's be honest. There's at least half of those fuckers who are just tickets, and wouldn't even look. Some of the
Goalie, I'm so
they
sorry.
might even-
That picture
What?
that you have up isn't a picture of Florence Shalmy at all.
Well, the picture it says here, Marcia de Cordova left was mistaken for
Oh,
Dawn
right,
Butler
sorry,
right
yeah.
on BBC Parliament.
Yeah, you were talking about a woman. You were talking about a different black MP, though.
Yeah, I Florence Shalomi. It's all in the one. It's all in the one story. It's all in the one story.
So,
You were mistaken. You were
you
mistaken.
put the wrong picture up, man.
Guys, we have to hang up on
Throw up the picture of Lukaku.
I have to come back in a second.
No, it's not what it looks like. It's not what it looks like, folks. It's all in the one article, like, yeah, it's fine. I have to read the whole thing out now to clarify this, right?
Oh my god.
So bad.
I think this is just her friend that she's talking about. This is a friend of Florence. No, because she did say that some of her
Did you say her
colleagues.
name was Dawn something? Yeah, Dawn.
So
yeah, she's the MP.
Marcia de Cordova was mistaken for Dawn Butler right on BBC Parliament.
Yes.
So Mrs. Eshalomi said the
level,
BBC had sent an email and apologised, but said the broadcaster told her it had used the House of Commons caption. So it is related to Eshalomi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Look,
But-
it's happening a lot. You talk about the Lukaku one goalie.
Yes.
Mistaken for Stormy Daniels, was it?
That's right. The rapper, the singer Stormzy, yeah. He was mistaken for them. But it can happen. Like, let's be honest about it. I don't think there's anything meant by it. But what's interesting is, was it... I don't know who Stormzy, the rapper. Like,
I know.
what
I
was
know.
this stuff happening?
When Kobe Bryant died, the BBC genuinely ran a picture about the death, and they used a picture of LeBron James, genuinely, by mistake as well. So, and that's only that was this year, wasn't it? He
Yeah.
died.
But that's just a
So
joke.
it's happening a lot.
That's not a
not a
joke.
joke.
No, it's not a joke. It's just an accident. Do you know what I mean? And it happens. So it should be just laughed off as if, oh, look what they made a
Not if
mistake.
happening
It's not a
lot.
problem.
Look, not if it's happening a lot.
Stormy
as
Daniels
it
there
is,
for you folks.
clearly, here.
But was this
Look,
happening
I'm
all
gonna
the time and just never made the news?
Well, one of those three MPs that you talked about there, the Dawn woman, she said in a similar interview with the BBC, she said she entered the members' lift. So there's obviously a lift for the members of Parliament, right?
Yeah.
And she entered that lift, and she was only she tried to get on. She was told that this lift really isn't for cleaners.
Right. Okay. Well, that's wrong. That's
So-
clearly wrong.
That's totally wrong, because they shouldn't have a lift for members of Parliament and a separate lift for cleaners, because that's
Well, no, I don't agree
that's
with
fair.
that.
Like, that's
You're obviously.
Why
So
do you not agree with that?
I think you're trying to entrap me here this evening. Of course, you have a different lift for the cleaners.
why, of course, go.
For hygiene reasons and stuff, you don't want to be going into a lift with all the buckets and spades and not spades, but you know,
Come
the
on.
brushes and the buggy and the fucking mop and bucket and all that shite. Like, you know, it's just hygienic.
We know that's not the real reason why they have separate lifts. Come on,
It is, and for you to try and insinuate otherwise, it's just juvenile, in my opinion.
I don't think it's juvenile. I think the British government.
Not all
the fact that
cleaners
they have
are
a
going
house-
to be
they
from an
have a
ethnic
house-
minority.
I agree, but I know I'm not saying it's a racist thing. I'm saying it's a class thing.
Yeah, it is a
That,
class
like,
thing,
if,
definitely.
yeah, and that's wrong.
Yeah, no, it definitely. No, listen, let's just be clear here. What is wrong is that your woman in the lift said that to the woman.
Which woman?
The MP, is it?
Yeah, which MP?
The MP who was already in the lift said to the black woman, "This is a lift, not a lift for cleaners." That's wrong to say that, 100%, because you're making an assumption because she's black that she is not your equal and that she's a cleaner, and that's then obviously a worse subject because you're saying cleaners aren't equal. Of course they are. They're working people, like the backbone of the economy.
That's what I'm trying to say. That
But
obviously lady Dawn was making.
Yeah, but your issue
She
seems
was
to be
making
the
because
fact
she
that.
was
Can I
black,
finish what
she
I'm
was a
saying?
cleaner.
Your issue seems to be the fact that they shouldn't be in separate lifts at all. You're wrong on that one.
Why?
Because cleaners should be kept in separate lifts away from people who are not staff or not the public. It's just a health and safety thing, a hygiene thing. Do you know what I mean? Even if you take it from a health and safety point of view, that if you're service elevators, exactly, we have service elevators for a reason. If you're pushing around this big fucking bulky trolley with mops sticking out of it and detergent and all sorts of dangerous chemicals, you're not going to want to put that in front of your people in a lift or risk it spilling or banging into someone. Do you know what I mean? So for that reason, they should be in separate lifts.
I think it's a clear class thing. It's
Service
elitism.
ATMs. No, it's not elitism whatsoever, and I think you're wrong with that. The girl was definitely wrong to say what she said because she made an assumption based on that the fact that probably a high percentage of the cleaners in her building are black. It's a class thing, not a racist thing, and it definitely she deserves to be criticised for that.
If a high percentage of the cleaners are black, that makes it less of a bad thing that she made that assumption. I think.
I can see your logic with that.
I don't know.
I can see your logic with that, though. I can, in a twisted way, I see that because it's systemic. I can't say it. Systemic. It's systemic discrimination and class issue and racism, whatever. So you can justify it in that respect, but it doesn't make it right.
No, I agree with you. I don't think it's right at all.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on to the other story, Goldie. If that's
Please
okay.
do.
This is probably even worse. So this is a woman called Alexandra Wilson.
Welcome, active listener.
So she 3 times. So she's a barrister and she's black, obviously. 3 times in one day in the courts, she was identified as a defendant instead of.
I think we talked about this previously on a show, maybe the last show, did we? Good morning.
No, this only happened. This is very recent.
I read about it. Yeah, I did read about this.
Yeah, I think I sent it to you at the time because it was kind of not funny, but it was shocking, but also really that it happened 3 times in one day.
It would kind of make you wonder. Again, it's obviously wrong, and it would make you wonder.
Wearing?
Yeah, well, that's my first thing. Was she wearing something? And that shouldn't matter. Yeah. We all know it shouldn't matter. But was it something that kind of led to that stereotypical that the judges?
She must have been wearing a suit, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, like this, the judge is probably standing up there and sees obviously a high percentage of black people coming through his courts. So again, makes a terrible and awful assumption, or her court. It makes a terrible assumption. That's totally wrong, but you can see why it was made.
Innocent.
I get it, yeah. Innocent's probably not the right word, but kind of justified in a way, but not right. I don't know what the correct word is. Buzz says his sister was mistaken as a staff member in 3 different stores in the same day. Pennies, Dunnes and Deals. Well, there you go. That's the other side of it. That
was
somebody
wearing pennies, like a suit. Like, was she mistaken as a manager?
Well, I think what Buzz is trying to say that people get mistaken for people all the time. That you think somebody is a criminal, you might think somebody is a lawyer, you might think somebody is a shopper, you might think somebody is a staff member. It just happens to be the clothes you wear, or maybe the manner in which you present yourself, or there's something that gives it you this idea or
like
opinion.
If you wear a clown costume to a circus.
There you go. You're gonna think you're a clown, and you're right, Buzz. It just seems to be happenstance. It's not right, and it's obviously controversial at the moment, given the colour issues and racial issues we're having.
I think this woman is up to something. I think there's another story to this because I'd agree with you. It wasn't said in the article. I'd say what she was wearing. She probably deliberately wore something that looked
You think
probably
she was
more
trying to stir shit?
criminally. Well, it just mentioned in the article that she's the author of a book called Black and White.
Okay.
So obviously she's into racism and
So it's probably
looking at it.
an entrapment of some sort that this woman
I definitely think
purposely
so. And the article
set it up.
was scared to say it because they get sued.
Yeah,
So
of
yeah,
course.
she's a barrister. She first of all, it was a security officer at the front door of the courts. Asked her name so he could find it on the list of defendants. Right, so that's the first thing. She told him she was a barrister. He let her through then.
Okay.
And then when she was going into the court, this is what struck me as interesting. When she was going into the courtroom, a member of the public stopped her and said that she can't go in because it's a court and only lawyers can go in. So the fact that a member of the public took it on her, on him or herself to say it to her. Now, first of all, I don't know where the member of the public is going, that only lawyers can go into a court. Because obviously the criminals and the defendants do go in as well. But it suggests she was wearing something really over the top.
Yeah, and we'd love to get a picture of that, folks, because you're right. There's more to it than meets the eye there. If you go looking for trouble, if you go looking for controversy, you're going to find it, and you're going to make sure it happens.
Yeah.
So I'm sure she probably wore something ridiculous. She probably looked like a streetwalker or something to that effect. And I say that in the nicest way.
My favourite... The streetwalkers are lovely people. I know loads of them. My favourite one was the clerk, very loudly, she says, she quoted very loudly, told the barrister to leave the courtroom. And then as she was leaving, she said... asked her if she was represented. so they all made this assumption that she was a black defendant.
Yeah. I think there's more.
She said that 9%. Who's Johnny Cochran?
Johnny Cochran famously got O.J. Simpson off by saying the N-word too many times in court and shaming everybody into acquitting him. Well, or so the story goes. But isn't that a similar thing?
Really?
Yeah, like he just said it over and over again and said he was being persecuted, and he openly used the N-word in court. He apologized for it.
How many black people were on the jury? Was it 2?
Well, there's nothing wrong with using the word in court.
No, my point being that he
the glove didn't fit, man.
The judgmental heartstrings and guilted everybody into acquitting him.
But that's what you do as a lawyer, isn't it? That's what you're there to do. You're there to
calling his defendant an N-word.
No, he was calling OJ. He was OJ's lawyer, and he was calling OJ the N-word, and shaming everybody into.
So he was calling OJ the N-word.
Yeah, but you know, because
he was
saying that's what you think of him.
He was making a point. I think is what he's trying to say.
But this is a bigger issue. Judgment in general, like we're all making it on a daily basis of people, like who's that guy? Who's he think he is, and who's this guy think he is?
Yeah, we do. It's human nature to make judgments, and now it's just under scrutiny. And by the sounds of things, and I don't want to. I'll put a caveat with this that it's not fact and it's not my opinion, but I say this without knowing facts. There's a possibility that this was orchestrated, and she set out to achieve this, and she did it successfully to illustrate a point.
Then she achieved it, yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah, good lawyer.
Yeah,
exactly.
And she'll probably be better off for it now professionally, and obviously having raised awareness to it.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me though of the judge. Sorry, go ahead.
Pointed out. So she pointed out that only 10% of ethnic minorities are senior barristers. Okay, so she said BAM people. I'd never heard of this before. Capital B, capital A, capital M, capital E. Had you heard that before?
Never heard of that.
BAME.
BAM.
It must be a phrase in England, yeah. So it stands for Black, Asian, whatever M and E is for, I don't
Ethnics.
know. Muslim, ethnic, something like that. So only 10% of barristers are ethnics. So I looked up the statistics. In England, only 20% of the population are an ethnic minority. So that's not like such a, it's not such an outrageous percentage, I think. So she's making a point. I think what Goldie's saying is right.
20% of England, are you saying 80% of England are white?
Yeah, according to the last census. I was shocked by that.
Wow.
Yeah,
I was shocked by that.
So it's perfectly proportional, but there shouldn't be a legal thing.
Not perfectly, but it's not out of like should they be trying to hire more black or African or Asian people? It doesn't strike me as fair.
No,
black people are less likely to go to college.
We
I know that's terrible to say.
No, but it's true. Like we are here saying that it doesn't matter what your skin color is or what your background is. You should have equal opportunities. 100% should have equal opportunities, and you shouldn't be hiring people. We've talked about it before. You shouldn't hire somebody just because they're a woman. You shouldn't hire somebody just because they're black, or it suits whatever agenda, ethnically, or quotas, or any that kind of stuff. You should be hired because you're the best person for the job, despite all that other stuff. And that's the bottom line. Okay?
I think most people would disagree with you, Goldie. I think nowadays,
Because they say that you need to push it, you need to highlight it, and you need to show that it's not there. But it's not there because of all the stuff we did before. You know, traditionally black people were less educated, so therefore there is less of them that are barristers or in these kind of traditionally white empowered professional glamorous jobs. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think
we're turning the
I know-
corner on it. But it's going to take
I know
time.
you've argued this a lot, but I think there's a flaw in the perception that you hire the best person for the job, because if you go in there with the let's hire the best person for the job, maybe the categories that they're suited for aren't the best. Like, just thinking it out loud here, maybe somebody from a minority or somebody persecuted would have a better or an alternative opinion of things that you, as your white privileged man, would not come up with. Maybe that's the best person for the job. Maybe by just
But that's going to be down to the criteria, isn't it?
But no, I don't. I'm not necessarily. Well, yeah, okay, yeah. If you want a block layer, don't hire the fucking.
Like,
60-pound woman.
no, but listen, I what I'm trying to say is here, and I think this has been forced on a lot of companies and been forced on a lot of government bodies and things like that, because it looks good and it seems to be the right thing to do on the face of it, but I think it causes more damage. You know, if you have 3 people going for a job, you have a man, 2 men and a woman, right? And the woman, sorry, you've got a man who's like your number 1 candidate, you've got a woman who's your second candidate, and you've got the man who's the third candidate. Okay, you should pick the man for that job because he's number 1. It doesn't matter if he's male or female, right? He's the best out of that category of 3 people for that particular job at the time, right? Now, just let me finish, right? Now, if you in that same situation have the man and the woman are actually completely identical in their skill set and their experience and what they can bring to the company in the kind of traditional sense, well, then the third guy, he's out of the picture. So now you're left with these 2, the man and the woman. And then, and only then, in my view, should you do what you're talking about. If I hire this man, I'll get the same job as I do if I get the woman. But with the woman, 1, I'm actually meeting the quota, I'm looking good, and I'll also have a more diversified opinion in the role.
And you have to pay her less.
But that's, you shouldn't have to pay her less. and Buzz says the same thing. Buzz, but then pick the woman, because then you've kind of come to a tiebreaker situation. Do you know what I mean? And then you're looking for the edge, definitely. But if you're in a situation where both of them are equal, or sorry, if the man is more experienced, you should never pick the woman just because she's the woman. In my view, I think that's wrong. I hope I've explained that properly.
I take your meaning, but at the same time, I think I think that's only if you don't take into account the added benefits that somebody persecuted or someone in minority or someone of, I don't know, it doesn't like. I know there's very few women in my field, right? Very few women that stick it out, largely because they have babies and they find it very difficult to get back into the field again because of all the training you have to do. But the women that generally do stick it out are absolute ball busters. Like, they are the hardest nosed chicks on the planet.
They feel they have to be like that.
Whether they feel they have to be, or they just rise to the occasion, they just are. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, I think they definitely are, but I think there's definitely data there to suggest that women need to or feel more obliged to prove themselves, or they feel like it's tougher for them, so they have to be like that to keep up and such. I think a lot would report that.
I'll tell you a story without
a brief story, yeah.
Implementing myself too much. One time I hacked into the server of an employer, and I downloaded everybody's wages right after the 10% pay cut that everybody got across the board back in 2008 as the recession was coming. So I was curious to see who got the 10% in reality. So they downloaded everybody's salaries, but one associate, a female, was on 15 grand. She was on 55 grand or something, but then a male architect who was there much less time was on something like 70. Like, didn't have the qualifications, didn't have the experience, just on that much more than the associate, who was, probably got percentages and stuff. But it was just a bit shocking.
Well, it's not really.
Genuinely shocked.
It's the pay gap. Like, we know it exists. We're not saying, like, you should be paid for what you can deliver. Again, whether you're a male or female is irrelevant. You get paid on what you deliver and what you can bring. So, yeah, we're not denying it doesn't exist. But thank you for the story, Lockhart. We're coming towards the end of the show, but I believe...
I read a book, guys, during the summer.
Oh, go on, go ahead. You read a book. Tell me.
People. It's called What the Hell is Wrong with You Black People? And it's written by a guy... It's not... No, it's not a... It's written, I'm guessing, by a black guy, Raymond Sturgis. But in it, he's kind of saying, like what you're saying there, Lockhart, that they're the architects of their own misfortune, in that they, because they're so much fighting for equal rights and so on, they're ignoring the actual problems that are, like as Goldie would say, systemic in their race. What I always thought, Barack Obama called out black fathers who abandoned their kids. And if a white president had done that, he would have been, there would have been outrage that how dare this white president say, that black lads walk away from relationships and the kids are raised by their mum. But Barack Obama called it out. His own father was the same, of course. So this book was really interesting because I'm guessing the guy was black, but he basically was saying that black people need to step up and actually take action about black violence, about black attitudes to sex, etc., etc. I thought it was mesmerizing. If it had been written by a white guy, it would have been totally controversial, obviously.
It's definitely, listen, it's very controversial topics. I don't know, every week we try to stay away from it, or every month, and we get dragged back into it. Because it is, between that and coronavirus, it is the world, unfortunately, that we do live in. And we hope, just while we're on the kind of the American side of things, I suppose, let's hope, our next show, we will have a different...
Election special.
An election special, but hopefully a different sitting president than the one that exists there now. We're going to move on to one of the final segments of the show, the penultimate segment of the show. Oh, I'm in agony. And
brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Never gets old.
No, it doesn't.
Have we had anyone write into us this month looking for a bit of Goldie advice?
We did.
Excellent.
We did. And it's a sad story. I think it's a teenage writer, as you'll guess. I'll just call it out, will I?
Do, yeah.
And let you do your magic.
Please.
Okay. So I'm going to have to pull it up here because I had it stored away. This is from 3 weeks ago.
Oh, we apologise for not getting back to you sooner. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, geez, the person could have solved the problem by now, for all we know. Okay. Dear Goldie, I'm a 16-year-old student. I am quiet and shy, although most of the other kids and teachers like me. I am in a terrible dilemma and need your advice. Uh-oh. For the last... What was that?
Please continue.
I'm in a terrible dilemma and need your advice. For the last 2 years, my class tutor has been dedicated and very friendly towards everyone in our class. He would help us with our homework if we got stuck, or if we had an issue with the teacher in another class, he would give us positive advice to solve the problem. However, in the last few months, something strange has been happening in our homeroom each morning. At first, items from the students' school bags or lockers started disappearing. It was only in our class and seemed to only happen before school started. The missing things were not overly valuable at first, sometimes a drink or a food voucher. But recently, 2 of my classmates' phones have disappeared and have not turned up. Last week, my best friend's iPad went missing. I sometimes email my tutor and contact him through more private forms of social media. Recently, I've noticed that he is selling phones and also an iPad on one of his private sites. I don't know what to do. I am suspicious that he might be stealing... I am suspicious that he might be stealing things from us. She's no Sherlock Holmes. But I have no hard evidence. I don't want to ruin my friendship with him, and I think that he totally trusts me. If I say anything, I would lose this trust forever. What should I do?
Can we just get the age group again?
16.
16.
16.
Well, I first of all I want to apologise for the laughter that Lockhart and Charlie gave throughout that part, because it seems funny to them and to us, but it's really, it's a big problem for you, and obviously in your life that's something that's troubling you. You wrote into Goldie about it. So first of all, congratulations for confronting it, in the sense of, you're asking the question, because if it's bothering you enough to write into me, it's bothering you enough to do something about it. And I think the question then is just, what do you want to do about it? I get the hint, and if you don't, what's this lady's name again?
They didn't give one.
Okay, we're going to call you Patricia just for the sake of it. So Patricia, I get the sense that you feel something stronger for this person, this tutor. And maybe kind of probably fantasize a little bit about being in a relationship with this person. And that's perfectly natural and normal, and there's nothing to be ashamed about with that either. But it happens to us all. But I think, that's been taken advantage of a little bit. And I think, when you grow up, you'll not grow up, because I don't want to be, what's the word, condescending to you or anything like that. But, when you do get a little bit older in life, you do get a bit more experience. And you'll realise that there's never a possibility of you being with this person. It's not going to happen. It's not healthy.
Well,
And no, it's, even if it does happen, it's not healthy, and it's not the right thing to do, and it shouldn't happen. So leave it where it is, as a kind of a school crush, but don't let that person manipulate you or use you, or he probably knows that and is relying on you and the relationship you have to not squeal. I think you do need to contact the school about it, maybe your parent, and let them kind of guide you through the process. But I think something needs to be done, because it's, at the end of the day, it's your friends and their property and things like that that's gone missing. And I have a kind of sneaking suspicion, Patricia, that if it all goes to shit, you could get the blame for it. He might even make you look like the guilty party. So definitely, I think, immediately speak to your parents about it and let them guide you and take the course of action. Buzz, a 16-year-old maintaining an unsupervised relationship with a tutor seems inappropriate. I would speak to a parent or trusted adult. Yeah, Buzz, you have it there in the nail on the head. You do need to speak to somebody about it.
seems ideal, Buzz.
It does, and it's a difficult one. It really is difficult, because the power of a crush and love is so immense. It's so immense. But don't feel ashamed. We all make silly mistakes because of love. So don't.
But Goldie, if
be
this
ashamed.
girl, Patricia, maintains a relationship with him, in a way it's good for her, because he probably wouldn't steal from her.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, if you do something about this, the chances are he won't be in a position to steal from you again. Presumably he's probably promising you good grades, or promising you certain things will happen or whatever. It's not worth it. It really isn't worth it. And some people might give you advice to use this, like maybe some of your younger friends or some of your peers might encourage you to actually use it to your advantage and kind of blackmail them in a way or manipulate them in a way, but that's just going to go down a wrong road too. You need to speak to your parent immediately, so please do so.
Could this be a double bluff, Goldie? That could she be the culprit, and she's maybe
So this letter could be her back. It's entirely possible.
alibi.
It is, but I will take what people's
That's a very
letters.
cynical view of
It is. I'll take it as face value as what's given in to me, as being genuine.
Right.
But I can see where you're coming from. It's kind of a plot twist in a movie or something.
There's a larger issue there, isn't there? A trust issue with leaders in general. Your superior.
Thanks,
I
Buzz.
know in this case it's a special relationship that a teacher should never take advantage of ever, and obviously a teacher stealing from students is absolutely scum of the earth. But if you're committed
Steady
to
on.
following,
Wow, that's hard.
he's scum. Jesus, honest, a teacher stealing from students. That is
Without
absolutely
any
abhorrent.
evidence, you're condemning this guy.
Yeah, well, it seems it seems pretty damning, doesn't it, that the teacher is selling iPads on his social media sites? But yeah, I mean, look, all we have is the facts that
It
Patricia
is
wrote in
damning.
for. It is pretty damning.
Yeah.
But like
Like it's
I
all
don't know.
circumstantial. you know,
Look,
it warrants an
it's
investigation.
potential. He might be stealing from them. Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, he may be
And
innocent.
if he
We
is,
accept that,
he's
and
scum.
we want to make that clear. He may be innocent, but there obviously is a possibility he's not, and that needs to be
But
explored.
what if
In an
what if
appropriate manner.
let's move this on 10 years. What if Patricia's working in an accountancy firm, and her manager is hiding money?
He's still
And
robbing from her.
No, he's hiding money from, say, other people in the company, and she finds out about it because she does the payroll, and he, he does. They don't know. She's suspicious about it, but they're quite friendly. She's 26. He's whatever 40. That maybe there'd be something there. Is it still morally ambiguous to cover this up for him?
Well, I think,
Or is it,
yeah, I think it. Well, I think the difference is first of all,
That's a really good point you're raising there.
it's not really.
if
Do you believe that the stuff you do in your teenage years, kind of, you
We
set
should
yourself
learn
down
from our
that road,
mistakes,
and
for
once
sure.
you do it once,
maybe, yes, maybe, yeah.
No,
yeah,
but I think-
it's not really about that. It's about the leadership of the captain as well.
What's fundamentally
If you're
flawed
following-
there in your whole argument is you're treating an adult like a child, and you're treating a person of
It's not an
responsibility.
argument. I'm saying that stuff happens. I'm saying
Yeah, but
managers,
you can't compare
do
apples and
dicky things all
oranges.
the time.
And I hate
Why
that
not?
expression, because when you're an adult and it's your boss, okay, he's in I suppose it's a special position, but it's not a position of where he's your guardian or he's your responsible adult. Do you know what I mean? It's different. And when you're a child,
Yes, like
you're
you
not,
said,
you're
yeah,
not really expected to know what's right and wrong. But when you're an adult,
And like I said, that
You
teacher
are.
taking advantage of kids is scum.
So
But
if an adult wants to take an opportunity to cover that up and use it to their advantage, whether it's sexually or to blackmail or whatever, let it be their prerogative. But they have to live with the consequences of that.
But that's what this teacher's doing. He's taking advantage of the kids. He's stealing.
I
their
know,
stuff.
but the difference is Patricia is not in a position for her to make that decision for herself.
No.
Do you understand?
But she doesn't really have
So
enough
I'm not going.
evidence
I'm
to
not
do
going.
anything about it,
But I'm
either.
not going to advise Patricia starts to have sexual relations with this person, or advise Patricia to manipulate this person or blackmail this person. That's not the right thing to do, because she's not in a position to make that informed
No, Patricia should
decision
look out for
and
herself.
live with those consequences. She doesn't understand the consequences of it. That's the difference.
Possibly, but she won't understand them until she's had mistakes made. Also,
Well, let's not make it a mistake in that respect, because
no,
that's
obviously not.
yeah.
But what I'm saying is,
what if Patricia does nothing, doesn't get involved? I mean, she doesn't have to do anything either way.
she doesn't.
She could just turn a blind eye.
It'll follow her around if she doesn't.
It will. Yeah, she needs. I wouldn't be bottling it up. Absolutely not.
Definitely wouldn't.
Definitely an interesting one. Thank you very much for sharing it with us, Patricia, and thanks, Charlie, for bringing it to us. And now we are on to our final segment of our show, folks. You'd be delighted to know well, maybe not. Maybe you'd be a little bit sad that we're going off air for another while. But we're going to finish off our 30-day movie challenge, and we are literally, this we've did one a week, and there has been 6 weeks. So this is, we've kept this as a regular feature in the show, and we're going to finish it off. So Charlie, have you prepared for this segment?
Bitter end.
Brilliant.
I have, yeah.
So day 26 is a film you like that is adapted from somewhere. Now, I kind of had a bit of an issue with this one, because aren't most films adapted from somewhere? Do you know? They all have been a book or a comic or an idea. Do you know what I mean? Generally speaking. So you kind of had a bit of a broad list of movies to choose from. Do you get me?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So-
I just took it to mean that it was obviously, like, Watchmen is an obvious one. Let's say it was a comic book that was famous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's what I'm saying. But everything is kind of being adapted. But I did pick the movie nonetheless. And the movie, what I picked was, it was a book or a novella called The Body. And it was adapted into a movie. Do you know the
very
name of the
good,
movie?
yeah. Stand by Me.
Stand By Me by, I was going to say Benny King, but he sang it. Stephen King wrote this novella. And it's a brilliant adaptation of a book to a film, because it's an iconic film. We can all kind of, not all of us have seen Dead Bodies as kids, but we can all kind of relate to the relationships with the various different characters and the kind of things that go on. And I think it's very good. But, how many other millions of movies could you list? Let me know. Tell me. What's yours?
It's really interesting to say that, Goldie, because mine is The Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, yeah.
and that is from a book by Stephen King as well, and it is in the same book as The Body,
Really.
literally the same
I
book.
didn't. I wasn't
Yeah,
aware it was in the same. So we actually picked the same book essentially.
yeah.
Like I
We
tried
actually picked
to.
the same book, and I didn't like the book that much of this. I loved The Body, the story The Body, but I didn't like the Shawshank Redemption book that much. And then when I saw the movie, it's just, I'm sure you've seen it. It's just brilliant.
It is, and to be honest with you, I get a bit annoyed when everyone brings up the Shawshank Redemption when we talk about movies, and I was hoping to get through the 30 days without mentioning it because I did think of it today, because
There you
literally on
go.
the last week. But it's a brilliant movie, but I don't think it deserves to be spoken about every time you talk about a good movie. It seems to be the movie that everyone says just so they fit in with the group, because everybody knows that everybody thinks Shawshank is
That
great.
seems harsh.
No,
I think everyone
I
thinks
think
it's a
it's a
brilliant film.
brilliant film, but I think it's becoming a bit overrated, and it's just fashionable now to say that is a great movie or that's your favorite movie.
I think that's harsh, Goldie. I think that's very harsh. I think it's a movie that everyone. My mum loves it, and I'm thinking this is a film where a guy is getting gang raped, and my mum still loves it. I mean, I think it's a movie that hit everybody
It
when it
does,
came
it
out, and
does.
they remember it still. It's been imitated. You can do parodies of it.
It's a fantastic
Like
film. I'm not
people will
denying
say,
that.
"What Citizen?" Yeah, it is fantastic. So
Yeah, I
I,
was
I,
just
I wouldn't knock it at all. I think it's just
Lockhart. Have you got one?
Do you know what? When you said adaptation, I thought about comic books, and I mentioned some absolutely appalling iterations of films over the years. One that really stuck out for me as appalling, and I was really excited to see, was Judge Dredd. Back in the 90s, Sylvester Stallone did it, and Judge Dredd never took off his helmet in the comics. And the first thing he did in the film was take it off, and it was Sylvester Stallone. The mystery was gone. But then they remade it and just called it Dread, and Carl Urban did it. The guy who played the reboot of
Spock
McCoy played the
or
reboot.
McCoy? Yeah,
Yeah, no, McCoy. Yeah, he played the reboot of Dread, and it was brilliant. It was an awesome film. Like it
yeah.
was
The second
just
film,
fantastic.
the updated one is very good. Yeah,
Yeah,
but the original is kind of good in its own way as well. Like it's cheesy,
it is.
ridiculous.
It
Do you know what I
is.
mean?
Yeah,
But
it's
it's
very quintessentially 90s, but as much as Demolition Man is, but at the same
there's three
time,
shells.
the reboot of it was just fantastic. Yeah, the three seashells, Jesus, and the high fives without touching because they spread germs. Like
There you
Jesus,
go.
how
How on
pathetic
point is it
that?
now? Buzz,
Exactly.
you're right. Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk was a great adaptation. Fantastic one. A fantastic movie. And it was actually in contention for
What's that an adaptation of?
Fight Club.
Yeah,
novel.
the book.
I could tell you, but I'm not allowed to talk about
Yeah,
it.
Was it a movie made of a novelization of a movie?
No, Fight Club was a book. It was originally a
Or
book.
was it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that was on my list. The second one we have is a film that is visually striking to you. Now, this was again. It's a very generic list, and you could list 100 movies from like the first. I think everybody has Avatar in their brain right now, but I don't want to say Avatar because that's what people expect me to say. So I'll kind of think back to my kind of what was striking to me personally was Independence Day. I think it was out in 94, 95, and I remember, like, I obviously loved kind of the B movies growing up as a kid, and I loved all those kind of alien invasion things or monster movies like the ants and stuff. Not so much like the likes of King Kong or any of that kind of stuff, but more so the kind of the ants and the birds and all these kind of classic horror movies and some of the other B movies. And when I heard about this fucking epic blockbuster, I could not wait. I was delighted, dying to see it, and it blew me away in the cinema. It was just fantastic. The effects at the time and everything were brilliant, and you believed that this was possible, and there was no defense against it. And I just remember being amazed by that film.
yeah, yeah. And I watched it again during lockdown, and it holds up well. It's a good film.
It
It's
does
so
hold up well.
corny.
It's an entertaining film, and it
Yeah,
is corny. But can you imagine as a kid watching that? Like, fuck me, it was great. And
yeah, yeah. In
the
the cinema.
sequel was a bit of a letdown, but hopefully that's not repeated with Top Gun. What's yours, Charlie?
Repeated with the what?
I didn't say repeated.
Oh, sorry.
What's a visually
What's
striking
mine?
The
film to you?
letdown isn't repeated.
It's yeah. Sorry, let's hope Top Gun 2.
All right.
The letdown isn't repeated.
Oh, Top Gun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When is that going to be released?
I think it's in November, but that could change now with everything, you know. But
So it won't
Watch
be in
this
the
space.
cinema. Yeah.
Well, it
I
will be in
wonder-
the cinema.
I
It
wonder
will
what
be in the
Tom Cruise
cinema,
will,
but
like hold out for the cinema.
Yeah, no, there will. There's loads of movies being held out. I can't wait for A Quiet Place 2. It was a fantastic. That was film of the year,
Really, yeah?
2018, I think.
First film was great.
Yeah,
I don't know how they can do
it was the
again.
film of the year for me. But I look forward to the second one. Anyway, tell me, what was yours?
Ready Player One.
Wow.
I just loved that film. Absolutely loved it. I thought it was brilliantly
How
done.
was that visually striking?
It just blew me away when I saw it. I just thought it was so.
How?
It just took me into the world. What do you mean how? It looks amazing. It's real. It feels authentic. The whole thing is set in this. What?
No, go on.
I just thought.
Yeah, the whole
I
premise
read the
is
book.
that it's set in this kind of virtual world where you can be whoever you want.
Yeah.
Whether it's your
I
favorite
don't
actor.
understand how it
Yeah.
can be visually striking in this day and age. Surely we're desensitized to that kind of overly virtual environment. Surely a real life
Well,
environment.
it was the first film
would
I
be
saw that
much
wasn't on
more
VCR.
entertaining.
I have to say, Lockhart, when I watched Ready Player One, I was very excited about it, and because I love the book, and I love kind of there's an offshoot of the book as well.
No, me too.
Yeah, and I don't know if Charlie has read the offshoot of the book, and if not, I'll get it to you. But it's can I mention the book? Do you think?
Oh yeah, go. For
Yeah,
it.
it's a book called Cult Fiction, and it's basically if Ready Player One was set in the 80s, kind of with 80s kind of what's the word, lore and memorabilia and movies and stuff, cult fiction essentially. Well, then Cult Fiction, the book is set in kind of the same thing but in the 90s, and it shares that kind of similarities, but there's a brilliant murder mystery in it that takes place in all your favorite scenes from video games and stuff and TV shows, and it's brilliant. It's literally what we all would dream about and have dreamed about. We've all dreamed about being in Resident Evil, being that character. We've all dreamed about being on the bridge of the starship. We've been dreamed about going really collecting Pokemon, whatever it is, and it brings you to that world, and it is brilliant. But with Ready Player One, I was annoyed that it was computer generated. I was annoyed that the whole world was computer generated. It should have been real actors.
It felt more real in the book. It felt more real in the book.
It definitely did, and I would have liked it to be kind of like a Roger Rabbit type setup, where you have real actors with CGI, a CGI Sonic or a CGI.
The Shining had no place in that film at all. Like they really should have stuck to their guns and done the War Games chapter over the Shining. Like if it wasn't for the Shining, I'd have been able to show it to the kids. The rest of that film was brilliant. Like and it was very entertaining. Loved the book. Now, to be fair, the writer of that book is a professional screenplay author in Hollywood,
Right.
And that was his quote unquote first book, despite the fact that he's done loads.
He knows what he's at.
Yeah, he knows what he's at. Exactly.
But no, definitely a brilliant film. I did expect more from it, and I do hope one day that Cult Fiction is released as a movie, because I'm actually guaranteed a role in it. Would you believe?
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Charlie.
The writers do some sort of contract.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Charlie. We don't have time to talk
Goldie,
about yours, Lockhart,
I'm
but I don't think you'll be
confused,
upset.
Goldie.
Go ahead. You're
I
confused.
was
Why?
just going to ask, like, you said it's set in a virtual reality world. So why are you so annoyed that it was CGI?
Because in your mind it was so
get that.
good that it was real. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't computer graphics in my mind when I read it. I was actually there on the Enterprise. I was there in the fucking Sonic world or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? I was there and it was real. It wasn't computer graphics. Like, and I know that's probably hard, but you probably have to be of a certain mindset to kind of get what I'm saying. But I agree, it's a good film. Now, a film that's just...
I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I think we all enjoyed it. A film that made you feel uncomfortable. Now, I want you to go first with this one, Charlie.
The Crying Game.
Really? Is that what you're going to say, or is that a joke?
No, that's the truth, because
I don't know
like
Irreversible.
everyone
Tell me
else
about
our
it.
Age, I'd heard about the twist in it before I watched the film.
Yeah.
So I basically I was so uncomfortable watching the film. I spent the whole film waiting for that to happen, that it ruined the enjoyment of what was a very good film.
But that's not the question I asked you. The
wasn't
question I
paying
asked
attention
you was a film that made you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's what I've answered.
So you're uncomfortable because you were let down by it.
No, I was uncomfortable while I watched it because I knew my friends had told me the bloke is
Okay.
actually a girl.
I think
The girl's actually a bloke. So as I was watching it, oh, you're going to tell me I misunderstood uncomfortable
no,
there,
I
are
don't
we?
think we misunderstood. You're right.
Right,
Like
go on.
you're right, but I just have a different. I have a different
Interpretation.
definition of uncomfortable. I think, and I get what you're
Right.
saying. But for me, it was a film that I only watched recently enough. Well, to be honest with you, I didn't even finish it. We myself and my partner, we watched the first maybe 15, 20 minutes of it, and it was crazy. I was willing to kind of go on, but I was definitely disturbed. But she couldn't handle it and walked out and was like, "I'm not watching this." And I couldn't actually blame her for that because it was bad. And to be honest with you, I was kind of, part of me was a little bit intrigued.
10 years a slave.
No, a little bit intrigued to go on because I heard it's brilliant. But at the same time, I was like, I don't really need to put myself through this. Like, and the film is called The Nightingale, and it's on Netflix at the moment. And it was made in 2018, and it's about an Irish girl and who has an Irish husband and a baby, and they're in, I think, Australia, in the kind of the outback, and she is indentured to a British soldier. So I was basically an Irish slave. People say they're slaves, but they're indentured. There's a difference, but we don't need to talk about that. Basically, she can work her way to her freedom, essentially. And it's kind of during a kind of a war with the Aborigines and things like that. And in it, she is like, say, a year overdue to be released from her slavery or indenturement or whatever you want to call it. And she keeps asking, can she be released? And your man keeps telling her no, that he needs her and promising her this, that, and the other. And, you kind of get the feeling that it's just they're sick of it. Like, they want to be free. And obviously the husband is working for the British as well, kind of doing his bits and pieces. And they just want to leave. So he ends up raping her. And that was a bad enough scene. Kind of got over that. And then later on in the movie, the husband finds out about the rape and, of course, is trying to hold it in because if he lashes out, then he's going to be in trouble. But it all obviously comes to a head at some point. And I'm going to ruin it because there's no way
Yeah, I'm not going to watch it.
yeah. So, if you don't want a spoiler on this, folks, turn it off now. But basically, the soldier finds out that the husband is aware of it and kind of goes to antagonise him, hoping that he'll hit him, basically. And of course, it works. So he ends up raping the wife in front of the husband, gang raping. All the soldiers have a go. They end up killing the husband, and the baby's crying. And while your man is raping your woman, he says, shut that baby up, shut that baby up. And you can see that the soldier is kind of like trying to stop, like soothe it, whatever. And you know what's coming. He's like, shut that baby up. And he wants him to kill the baby. And you're like, oh no, please don't. Because you see your man is even fighting with it morally himself. But doesn't he end up just smacking the baby's head against the frame of the door? And it's silent. And then your one just kind of, like, you still see her getting raped, and her eyes are looking into space. She can't believe what's happening. And at that point, the missus just said, enough is enough. And I was like, holy fuck.
This is 20 minutes in?
This is about 20 something, because it's actually a revenge movie. The whole point of the movie thereafter is that she is going to trace these soldiers, track them down, and kill them. It's basically Mel Gibson payback. Do you know what I mean? But it's set with this kind of Irish team and this horrific fucking
Death
thing.
Wish or whatever.
Yeah, and that's what the movie turns into, and it's meant to be immense after that. But I was like, fuck me, I spit in your grave, see my film, haven't heard that.
But was this not
spit on your grave.
typical
Sounds like it.
of Netflix? That they go too far. Could this not have been done in a much more? I presume it was outrageously.
Oh, well, yeah, no, it was horrible. The bang of that
Yeah.
head, it was like, fuck me.
Yeah, could this not have been done in a better directorial manner and less obvious? Because what I found with Netflix,
I think it was actually a female that
somebody-
directed. I could be wrong on that, but I think it might have been a female. But it was a female, because actually the girl who's getting raped is actually the
They're trying to show
director.
the horror of what happened.
Yeah, but you can do that
If they're
without.
trying to show the horror of what happened, it worked.
Oh, it did,
Goldie's
and
here
and
picking it.
and
It
and,
worked. It
and,
hit him.
and the missus
It
was
goes
like,
to disgust you, isn't it?
before even it got to that point, the missus was like, this is ridiculous. Like,
Half
this is
the
a bit
audience
much,
walked out.
you know? Yeah, it's horrific stuff. But
And did it make
Sounds
you
to me
feel
like the
uncomfortable
Mothman
because of
prophecies.
what was happening, or because?
I was like, I just kind of felt like I kind of got the dilemma of the baby. Like, your man is been told to shut this baby up, and he's kind of thinking he doesn't want to upset his superior, but he also doesn't want to kill the baby. I think it would have been better if it was left ambiguous that she came around and the baby was gone, and you don't know. you'd be assuming is the baby dead, or maybe the baby comes back at the very end. Who knows? But put it in your face, like the pain, the manner, it was just awful. It was horrific.
And is this like a brilliant film because of the horrors that it portrayed in such a wonderful manner?
I'm not saying it's a brilliant film because I actually haven't seen it.
Obviously it's been critically acclaimed, or you wouldn't switch
But it's definitely it's on Netflix and people are talking about it. Put it that way.
Talking about that.
Look, I think Lockhart, you might be. I mean, film isn't there to just amuse us, and I know that sounds uppity or whatever. But there are those films that are view themselves as there to shock us or.
No, that's entertainment.
No, I don't think so.
Start to finish.
We all get entertained in different ways. No, we all like you.
You're thinking of documentaries.
For some people, for some people, film is an art form. People study it in college. It's like the way when I read a book, I'm going to read the new Jack Reacher book. I'm going to read that I'm going to read it for like the way you have a takeaway. I'm just going to read it because it's a good story. I'm not analyzing it. And then there's the books that are tough to read that mightn't be so pleasurable, but they stay with you or they have a point to make. Not every film I think is there to be enjoyable. I think maybe I don't know anything about this film, but maybe it's trying to make a point about something. It's not there. It's not there for easy watching. Obviously.
Yeah, and Buzz nails it again. Buzz is on the right track tonight, to be fair to him. There's a difference between a film and a movie. A movie is there to entertain, whereas a film is art. A film, we don't call it a film, it's a film. And that's kind of your more artistic kind of view. And I get what you're saying there. There's definitely a place for it. There is a place for it, but it's a tough and uncomfortable watch, for sure.
Yeah, Buzz wrote about Irreversible there. I remember seeing that when I was younger, and that really disgusted me.
I don't remember what really that is. Horrific.
It sounds very similar to what you're talking about there. It's a revenge kind of film. So, but there's a horrible scene in a kind of subway or something as a woman's walking.
I can see a kind of a rape scene or something happening here. Yeah, Monica Bellucci.
Yeah, and I think it's French or something like that. And is it Monica Bellucci?
Yeah, she's a beautiful woman. Yeah.
James Bond, she's gorgeous.
She's gorgeous.
Yeah, I might watch that again.
Jesus Christ.
Fuck me. We apologise. Yeah, she is beautiful, to be fair to her.
Can it be podcasts that you feel uncomfortable with?
Okay, we're going to move on, folks. A film that makes you want to fall in love. 12, 13 minutes of a scene. You've been doing well to last that long. A film that made you fall in love. Or makes you want to fall in love. For me, it was The Notebook. I'm just going to put it out there. It's one of those films.
She gets it all off.
Man.
No, but it's a film that I'm not talking about for nudity or anything. It's a film that we're all kind of forced to watch by, I suppose, our partners or whatever. And it's one of those sappy, girly movies, but it does speak to men too. It does grind at you. Do you know what I mean? Towards the end there, it does pull a few heartstrings, and it's real love that's kind of demonstrated in that movie. And it would, if you think about I want to fall in love, that's what you want, isn't it? You want somebody at your bedside every single day telling you about your life. Do you know what I mean? That's beautiful. Beautiful. What about you folks?
There's a film,
for me, the Crying Game.
Love at first sight. There's an unusual film, and it's supposed to love in an unconventional manner. It's called About Time. It's got Donald Gleeson in it, and Bill Nye.
And not Will Smith. Justin Timberlake.
No, that's
Will.i.am.
That's no. Just in time, I think.
Bill Nye and Rachel McAdams.
Justin Timberlake's one is a thriller.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, this one is he can time travel. He goes into somewhere dark and thinks really hard, and he time travels backwards. But eventually, he figures out that once there's a baby involved, if you time travel back before the baby's conceived, the baby never gets conceived. So there's all this rigmarole going on. Anyway, what happens is his dad dies in it, but he keeps time traveling back to see his dad up to the point where he conceives a baby with his wife, and he has to choose between time traveling back to stay with his dad or staying in the present and losing the connection with his dad, that the extra time he got forever.
Well, could he not have just gone back and revisited the other times again?
No, because you can't travel back before the point of conception.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So,
But let's say you travel back to your 10th birthday, right?
yeah, no,
And
yeah, you can't. But
so
you
okay,
can't.
let's say the point of conception is 1980, and he
Yeah,
travels back to 1981, and he's perfectly fine. He can't go to 1979. But let's say he just keeps going back to 1981 and
no, but
reliving.
he can't. He can't. But he can. But once you go forward again, the baby's different. This is the problem. Once the baby's born, as soon as you go forward, the baby's different. I don't know why. I can't really remember it now. I can't watch it
Okay.
because it's too emotional. But I can't watch it again because it's too emotional. It did make sense when they do it. But
Did your
it,
did your missus want to make you watch that, or did you
no, she
pick
hasn't
it
seen it
yourself to
yet, and I
watch it? Or
can't
what?
bring myself to watch it in front of her because I cry like a fucking
Because you
baby.
want to fall in
But the
love with
problem is,
the father figure, is it?
no, well, there's two. There's the love between the father and his son, which is it's absolutely laid bare and it's really raw. And then there's the love that makes you want to choose your family over your father. So there was two there, and that it was so written, so pure.
Brilliant.
Obviously not.
I must check that out.
Yeah, it was a nice film, and it's a super romantic film. It's super sappy, and it is one you'd watch with a girl now. To be fair, but it is kind of like, would you make the choice? Would you choose never seeing your father again over seeing your son for the first time?
Yeah.
It
It's
was a
always
good
good
one.
when it provokes a decision like that. Charlie, what's yours?
Um, yeah, crying. I'm gonna stick with that one.
You're going to stick with the crying game.
What Lockhart is talking about. Did you see the frequency? I know it's not on the same level as About Time, but that had a really strong kind of daughter-father relationship. You know, her
The
talking
fireman.
on the radio.
Wasn't he a fireman?
Fireman, yeah,
Lost in
The
space. Guy.
fireman. No, I didn't see that. No.
yeah, and she knows he's.
What's his name again?
Okay. That was good. In real life,
Yeah.
Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid. He was in that movie.
It was a good
not,
film,
Not
but it's
Lost
not-
in Space.
yeah.
Inner Space. Fantastic film.
Inner Space, yeah, I love that.
Great film.
No, my film will be Love Actually. I know it's stupid, I know it's corny, but I always loved the story of the young boy and the dad encouraging him to go after the girl.
Yeah.
And he goes to the airport. It's totally corny, but that would make me believe in the power of love, or
Yeah,
whatever it is.
he really, really
That would
drove.
be my
He
choice.
literally drove them there.
Okay. And finally, folks, as we come to the
Yeah,
end,
yeah.
as we come to the end of a show, we come to the end of a segment of a show. We come to our favorite ending in a movie, and it's very fitting that this is the day 30. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of very good endings in films. Two candidates for me were Seven, The Usual Suspects. Both iconic classic ones, but I went with, and I only spoke about
Great
this.
choices. Great choices.
I only spoke about this recently with somebody, with you, Charlie, actually, and probably some of our listeners, because I watched it again recently. The Mist. The Mist has got to be one of the best endings to a movie ever. Like whatever you want to say about the movie and its production quality or whatever, it's the tense drama, the thriller, the psychology, everything that goes on, and in that final moment. And I'm not going to reveal it because if you haven't seen it, you need to watch it. It is an epic ending. And another one just to mention is when we're talking about time travel, is the Butterfly Effect. There was a very controversial movie or ending to that movie, and there was I think 2, maybe 3 endings, and one of them involved him time traveling back to the womb and committing suicide in the womb.
Jesus Christ.
Ashton Kutcher. Remember Ashton Kutcher? And he was with this girl,
Yeah.
his best friend or whatever, growing up, and they were abused by her father, and the brother kind of turned out to be a bit of a timid lad or whatever because he was made watch. But then he got jealous because he wasn't allowed to be involved in the sexual abuse. Like that's how bad it got. So Ashton Kutcher, similar to going into the dark room, he can kind of has blackouts during his life, and like, he always had fainting and stuff when he's a kid, but he can always travel back to those moments. So he goes back and he stops the abuse from happening. But as a result of that, other bad shit happens. Like initially they all have a great life, but then it results in bad stuff happening. So he goes back again and he tries to fix it, and he keeps going back. But every time he goes back, the butterfly ripples basically make everything worse until he realizes that the only thing he can do is make sure he was never born. So he goes back to the womb, commits suicide, and then this girl and her brother have a happy life because they never met him. So it's the decision he makes. And then the other one, the kind of the lighter version of it, is he goes back to a point where he says hello to her and makes himself not say hello. So he never becomes her friend. And at the end, they kind of cross paths on the street and look at each other as if there's this kind of recognition. And that's kind of the more PC version. But brilliant endings. I've taken a lot of time with that, folks. We've got 2 minutes. Charlie, what is yours?
Goldie, how was there two endings? Just a matter of interest. I only remember the Suicide in the Womb. Like, did you have two options or something? Or was
No, there was different releases. There was the TV release and the cinema release, the theatrical release or whatever. Like, there's different releases.
Really? Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What's yours?
Yeah. Okay. For me, it was a no-brainer. But what you're saying there makes me think of my favorite film, which was I've talked about it already. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. The ending of that is amazing, but I'm not going to talk about that. So my choice is It's a Wonderful Life. I think the ending of that is it's so uplifting, and you go through all this horrific story. Like, even though it's a Christmas movie, it's a really dark, horrible story about suicide and all that kind of thing. But you get your reward at the end for sticking it through. And every time I see it, I'm just in bits at the end. Like, you talk about yourself.
What's the final line?
It's a Wonderful Life.
Very famous final line of the movie.
Something about angels getting their wings.
Yeah.
Every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings.
Fantastic. Buzz talks about
I defy
Lahane.
anyone to watch it and not cry.
Really, I don't think I'd cry at it. I don't. Maybe I would. I'll try watch it. I'll make it a point to try watch it this Christmas. Buzz has talked about the film. He has.
Buzz
Lahane.
likes his French movies.
He does. He likes this movie Lahane. He's talked about it many times, and I haven't sat down to watch it yet at all. I think obviously it's French.
I've never seen it either. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a black and white. I think, if I remember correctly. But we've only got a minute or two. Lockhart, briefly talk to me.
Oh, Titanic. Didn't see it coming.
What's that? Her throwing the jewelry?
I don't know. Like when I was 16, I loved the Shawshank Redemption, Usual Suspects, great endings. Couldn't fault them. I quite like it when they get away with it. Like if there's Ocean's 11 kind of ending when gangsters get away with the crime. Yeah, I quite like that.
Yeah, that kind of happens a lot though. I always like when they change it. When they don't get away with it, or when I love when they turn it on its head.
And Aliens, I think when Ripley had the face hugger on the thing, that was a bit of a balls. But yeah, end of Aliens, usually pretty good.
Excellent. Well, listen, folks, that wraps up another show, episode 45, the October, somewhat Halloween special. I don't think we talked about that in too gruesome, but we hope you have a fantastic Halloween. Obviously, very different times.
I think we talked about a lot gruesome.
We did, but not in the traditional sense. We hope you have a good and happy Halloween. It's definitely a different one for everybody. There'll be no trick or treating. I plan on not answering the door whatsoever. I think is the plan here. I kind of feel bad for it. I've argued that we should answer it, because while it's wrong for people to be knocking, if they do, it's kind of cuntish not to have something for them. But I get the other side of that argument.
So are you going to be in the house?
We'll be at home. Will you answer your door very quickly? Would you be answering your door for trick or treaters?
I will.
You will.
No.
You won't.
I will, but I'm in the middle of nowhere, so if somebody comes, their car's probably broken down.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. I kind of hope that the people have the sense not to knock, but I will have probably a couple of reserves for people that do, because at the end of the day, like, you can't be too much of an asshole.
There will be kids that will, yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a group, for a neighbourhood group, that I think everyone's agreed not to, but there's always going to be one, isn't there? Anyway, folks, have a happy Halloween. We'll hopefully see you for an November show. Hopefully we have a new president in place by then, and lots more to talk about. Good night, God bless. I've been Goldie Metcalf.
I'm still Charlie Naughton.
And this has been Midnight in Baghdad. Good night, Lockhart.
Good night, guys.
Lockhart.
And that's the end of the show, boys and girls. Thank you for listening. Good night. God bless.